Conference 2022, presented by Mileset and organized by Dr. Rabbit Science Inc. in Indonesia. I am Vivi Fitrianti, and I will be your host for today for the Plenary Session Young Citizens Conference 2022. As we see today, we would like to welcome our distinguished keynote speaker, Professor Eugenio Albisua, Research Vice President, UPAEP University, Puebla, Mexico. Young Citizens Conference, or also well known as YCC, are dedicated to the views of the concern of youth regarding the social impact of science and technology on the modern world, gathering youth voices from every part of the globe and encouraging them to actively enter the discussion. And today, we are going to listen to our distinguished keynote speaker. And also later, we will have 4 distinguished speakers in the plenary session. And I am so lucky to be here because we are going to discuss about interesting and diverse topic from our distinguished speaker. And I hope you are all ready for this. And before we start, please allow me to read the housekeeping rules for today's sessions. First, participants' camera must be on, but the microphone should be off. In the Q&A session, you have to use raise hand on the bottom, and then before asking a question and speak after you have permission from the moderator. And please be respectful to everybody. And also, please kindly change your name into the format your subtopic _ name. Now, without further ado, we are going to have keynote speak from Professor Eugenio Albisua. But before that, probably I would like to introduce him and his works. He is a research vice president, UPAEP University, Puebla, Mexico. He is also a general director project Aztecsat-1, first Mexican nanosatellites deployed from the International Space Station. And he also general director the project ZXIBA1, and also a winner of the 6th round of Kibo Cubes selected to be deployed from the International Space Station, United Nations, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. And he also published several books in Mexico, and also its translation to Spanish, which is Physics, Philosophy, and Theology in 2002, and also Bridging Science and Religion in Mexico, 2004. Now, I would like to give the floor to Professor Eugenio Albisua. Professor, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Fifi. This is for me a very great honor to be with you today in your morning, my evening, but I'm so glad to be with you. I would like to share with all the children and youngsters in Asia what we did in Mexico in order to put a nanosatellite in orbit past December 2019. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to talk about this. I don't know if it is possible. This is the actual size. Let me try to change this. I can do, no problem. This is the actual size of the nanosatellite. You're going to see the presentation. I'm sorry, I think it's a little bit cloudy, but this is the actual size of the nanosatellite. So I'm going to share my presentation.
Aerospace engineering and having already built a.
Is it okay? You see my presentation now?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay. Again, thank you very much for inviting me to be with you tonight, today. And I'm going to talk about this nanosatellite. It was, we did this nanosatellite because there was an agreement between NASA and the Mexican Space Agency. So NASA chose us to make the satellite, and also we were very honored to be the builders of this nanosatellite in Mexico. As I show you before, this is the nanosatellite we put in orbit. This is the name of this kind of satellites are CubeSats. Why CubeSats? Because they are cubes. You see, 10 centimeters by size. So we are talking about 10 by 10 by 10 centimeters. It weighs almost a kilogram, and it is very small. But as you know, nowadays, in a small smartphone, we can do a lot of things. For instance, a smartphone is more has more power, computer power, than the Apollo 11 mission to space, the one who put the man Neil Armstrong and Collins on the surface of the moon. So now you are very young and you are used to see small things, but some years ago we need a huge computer to do exactly the same we do now with a smartphone. So that's why now in the world there are a lot of CubeSats. I'm going to talk about the first Mexican CubeSat. We had a mission. NASA gave us a mission. Put the satellite in orbit, 400 kilometers from Earth, and in order to demonstrate that it was possible to get communication with other satellites in orbit. These satellites are global star constellation. There are some 30 or 40 satellites, huge satellites, communication satellites, and we were supposed to get communication from this small satellite to the huge satellites owned by Global Star. So this was the mission. We had to do that. Never before, it was never before possible to do that. So we have to demonstrate that it was possible, because this is good for the future of the CubeSats. Why? Because you won't need to send information directly to antennas, the surface of the Earth. Instead of that, you send the information to another satellite, so you can get the information from the huge satellites to Earth. Then you have the information by internet, because it is very, very difficult to get the information from the small satellites directly to the Earth, because we need a lot of antennas in the surface of the Earth. For instance, we need antenna in Mexico, another in Cuba, another in Spain, another in Indonesia, another in China, another in Japan. So with this new process, we can get more information and faster. So this is the way NASA and we organize a project. A lot of people, a lot of systems and subsystems to to make possible to put a satellite in orbit. For instance, you have to have an antenna, you have to have a spacecraft, I mean the structure of the satellite, you have to have a flight software, you have to study what about the thermal conditions of the satellite in orbit, a lot of things. So we have to organize mostly this way. I'm very glad to, this is how many students and professors worked in the project. But I'm very glad to let you know that a lot of female students were participants of the project. 19 girls and 39 boys. So this is very good. Now girls are very pushing a lot to be scientists, to be technologists, to be engineers. And we had a lot of examinations, a lot of tests. NASA was the examinator, and we have 6 examinations before being ready to launch. We had examination here, the requirements review, the preliminary design review, the critical design review, the system integration review, a lot of exams. So we were very nervous when we had an examination as well as you are in the examinations in the school. This is the group. You see a lot of students, a lot of professors, and it's part of the group. And I'm gonna tell you about now the objectives of the mission. We had 3 objectives, 3 goals. First one was to develop flight-ready CubeSat for deployment from the International Space Station. It means that we have built a satellite, but it had to be tested before putting the satellite in the rocket to be launched. Why? Because it is important to know that it is safe, that it is well done, that it won't be there won't be any problem, any risk in the rocket, and also in the International Space Station. The second one was to demonstrate what I told you before, to demonstrate the communication between our satellite and the Global Star Network constellation. Because this is an improved method of communication for future CubeSat missions. For example, in the future, when you build satellite, maybe you will use our development. And the third one was to demonstrate that we can transmit information from the satellite to the air, to the antennas I told you before. So this is the beginning. This was the beginning of our aerospace studies and aerospace training and aerospace projects. This is a balloon, high altitude balloon, and we put some electronics on the balloon, and we tested some telemetric issues. It means how we can transmit information from the CANSAT, this is a CANSAT, to Earth. You can see the Earth, very blue, and this was our CANSAT. Was the beginning. This is our volcano Popocatépetl. It It's very close to Puebla, the city where I live. It's a very, very beautiful volcano. It has 5,500 meters of altitude. I know you have a lot of volcanoes also in Asia, in Indonesia, of course. So that's why we are now working on another project about the problems. I mean, to see the volcanoes from the space in order to avoid risk to the people. This volcano close to Puebla city is active, and as a matter of fact, it's a Nahuatl word that means smoking mountain. Okay, but this was a photograph from a balloon, and this picture shows how the students were working in the project. This was part of an evaluation from NASA. You can see the students working on the satellite. This is before pandemics. This is the way you have to dress, to wear this kind of clothes in order to protect the electronics of the satellite. And this is the satellite. You see the size, very small. This is a student from UPAEP. And this is when I took the satellite from Mexico to the United States in order to put the satellite on the rocket. We had an issue with NASA. NASA told us, you cannot pass the satellite through the X-ray in the airport. So we needed to ask for a lot of permissions in order to put this bag in the plane, but not passing through X-rays, kind of James Bond film. Okay, now we are in Ames Research Center in close to San Francisco in California, in the Silicon Valley, and we did the tests there. 2 professors and 2 students. This is the lab, Engineering Evaluation Laboratory lab, and this is the program in order to make the test. 2 students trying to put in the satellite in okay in order to make the first test. Again, you see, working on the satellite, connected to the computer, to the laptop. This was the first test, vibration test. This machine gives a lot and very huge and very intense vibrations in order to simulate the vibrations the satellite will have in the rocket, in the launch. We have to demonstrate that the satellite is able to pass for a huge vibrations. You see, this is a guy from NASA. We are seeing in the computer the results of the vibration, and you can see the vibration is very intense, very different kind of vibrations from very this means small wavelength and high wavelength. It means different kinds of vibrations. After that, we have tested the satellite, and we are happy because it was okay. After that, we did a centrifugal force test. Again, when you put the satellite on the rocket, it has a lot of vibration, but also a lot of centrifugal force. For instance, if you weight 50 kilograms in the launch moment, in the rocket, maybe you can weight about 200 kilograms. That's why we have to test satellite in this centrifugal force machine. This is myself, and I'm reviewing some data before putting the satellite inside the oven. This oven is a very special oven because it's a vacuum oven. It means no air inside the oven, and also it is able to change the temperatures from very low to very high in few minutes. This is the oven close. This is the closed oven, and this is the way the temperatures goes from 25 Celsius to minus 15 or 10. It depends on the sensor, and very fast to 60 Celsius, and again down and again up. And the satellite has to demonstrate that it's okay after this test. This is the environmental test. And again, I'm happy with this guy. This guy is a Mexican guy working in NASA, a very important guy in NASA Ames Research Center. And we are happy because the satellite passed very, very well the test. And this is the letter where NASA told me that our satellite was ready to flight. And this was the meeting where they give me the letter. So the first goal was, okay, now we have to demonstrate to have the second and third goal. So we went to Cape Cañaveral in Florida. This is a rocket, Falcon 9 from SpaceX company. And this is the Dragon capsule. And there was, it was our satellite. Mexico, everybody in Mexico was interested in this project, so there was a stream emission broadcast in order to see the launch. But we had a problem the first day. A lot of high winds, the sea avoided the launch of the satellite. So we had to wait for the next day. This is the shield. This is the logo of the Falcon 9, SpaceX, Dragon of this mission. I'm gonna show you a video. I hope you enjoy it.
I'd like to know more about you and your involvement with this project, as well as the rest of the students that were involved.
Okay, so I'm a student of aerospace engineering at UPAEP. Undergraduate, yes. So I'm 21 years old, and for me to be participating in such a huge project was like only in my dreams. So it's actually like a great opportunity because it's also a new career in Mexico. So having like, well, being the first generation of students of aerospace engineering and having already built a satellite, it's like incredible. So it's like an inspiration for younger people who are pursuing STEM areas, and it's also like putting Mexico in a good place for the aerospace industry.
Thanks for the question. Rosa, you want to tell them a little bit about your responsibilities?
Yeah, sure.
What did you do in the project?
So I was the student leader for the mechanics and structure subsystem. So we basically prepared the satellite for the tests that he already mentioned. And we also created an assembly manual. So this has great value because when we have, well, hopefully we have secondary missions, then we already have a manual. So it makes the process completely easier and faster. So we also have the experience of a satellite, so it will be easier to work with one in the future.
Thanks.
Anybody else have a question?
How great has it been to apply the knowledge you're learning in school to something like a CubeSat satellite, to not have to wait to the next job, to actually jump into it and actually use what you've learned?
Sure. So right now I'm actually taking my first class in satellite technology. So it's like a great advantage because I know basically everything they're teaching me. So I'm the A+ student, so it's great. And of course you always learn better by practice instead of just like studying. So it's a great advantage and I'm really excited to have it.
That's 15 seconds. 10, 9,
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Engines ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Cargo Dragon, transporting critical research to enable living and working in Earth orbit and in deep space.
Vehicle supersonic. Vehicle has reached maximum aerodynamic pressure.
A couple big calls there. Again, all normal, all nominal, and progressing as expected, flying through the densest part of the atmosphere.
Recovery AOS.
Pues nada, jóvenes, por fin se nos hizo. Ha volado el Falcon 9. Ya está en unos pocos minutos por llegar a la Estación Espacial Internacional. ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué se siente? Yo estoy hiper emocionado. No puedo evitarlo. La verdad es que es un momento que esperé muchos años. Muchas gracias a todos por su apoyo. Duro UPAEP, vienen cosas mejores. ¿Qué opinas, Rosa? Dinos algo.
No, pues fue algo increíble de ver, la verdad nos sentimos muy afortunados, estamos muy felices y pues qué bueno que tuvo tanto éxito, vamos por más cosas. Muchas gracias.
¿Tú, Ana Belén?
No, pues estuvo muy padre y qué orgullo que México haya llegado tan alto. ¡Viva México!
And there it is, successful deployment of the Dragon spacecraft. There is a view inside the unpressurized section of Dragon's trunk. With Dragon deployed, the next major milestone will be deployment of the solar arrays as Dragon makes its way to the international.
And we're still standing by. You'll see that arm start to move in the next couple of minutes. Dragon continuing to just fly in formation with the station just about 11 meters away. And you can see the arm starting to be in motion, coming alive there. In Expedition 61, Commander Luca Parmitano, the Italian astronaut, is at the controls as the prime for today's capture operation. And we just heard the call here at Mission Control Houston. Snares have retracted and capture is complete. So that call coming at 4:05 a.m. Central Time, 5:05 a.m. Eastern.
Capture complete. Go for post-capture direction. And I would like to congratulate all of the people in Houston and around the world who've contributed to the launch, navigation, and capture of Dragon. They must know that whenever we welcome a new vehicle on board, we take on board also a little bit of the soul of everybody that contributed to the project. So, welcome on board.
You're jumping right in at the perfect time as Dragon right now is situated right at the hatchway, at the common berthing mechanism on the Earth-facing side of the Harmony module. Since it was captured at 4:05 a.m. Central Time, 5:05 a.m. Eastern Time, robotics flight controllers have maneuvered Dragon using that Canadarm to its position where it now sits. And this is Mission Control Houston, those A-bolts continuing to drive. So you're looking at Dragon, it's in place at the common berthing mechanism on the bottom of Node 2, the Harmony module. Right now, those 16 bolts are driving to firmly fix Dragon in place where it's going to remain for the next month.
Okay, after that, we receive special congratulations from NASA to the AztecSat-1 project. You know, media in Mexico was very interested in the project, in the satellite. This is information from the newspapers. And after that, 2 months later, the satellite was deployed from the International Space Station. For me, it was the most important moment of the mission, because this is the moment where we will know what about the performance of our satellite. So you can see this is the International Space Station, and this small point is our satellite. And this is our satellite in orbit. This is a photo taken by NASA just after the deployment. And after this moment, the satellite has had to work, has to make the communication with Global Star and the communication to the antennas in Mexico and in other countries. But we were really happy, because after just few minutes of the deployment, we had the information from Global Star that the satellite was in touch with the Global Star constellation. So it was really exciting to know that the satellite was okay just at the beginning of the mission. So the second goal was achieved. Now we have to show that the third goal is also achieved. So just to remember, the third goal has the goal was to demonstrate communication between the satellite and the antennas on Earth. We had 3 antennas, one in California, one in Chihuahua, and one in Puebla. But we received information from other countries, from Uruguay, from Italy, from Japan, from Germany. So again, satellite was okay just at the beginning of the mission, just at the beginning of orbiting the Earth. And now we have, this is very, very special for us, because Jim was the general administrator of NASA at that moment, just in the Donald Trump administration. He was the main guy at NASA.
Congratulate the Mexican Space Agency on the success of AztecSat-1, which is a CubeSat that launched yesterday from the International Space Station. I also want to congratulate the university that helped put it together, UPAEP there in Mexico. This is a great collaboration between NASA and Mexico, and it's a great collaboration between our agencies. So congratulations, and I look forward to more work together.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And after that, we had a lot of media activity in Mexico on TV and radio. So after that, we had the honor to have a special stamp, post stamp, and that's all. Thank you very much, and I will be very happy to answer your questions or to hear your comments.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Eugenio, for such an inspirational talk today. And it's like such a great for today's opening plenary session. And now probably there are several questions for our young science enthusiasts here. The first one from Matthew. What is the benefit of sending a small satellite? Why not just send a couple of large ones?
Okay, see, if you launch a normal satellite, you have several problems. The first one is the cost. They are very, very, very expensive, maybe $300 million. The second one is they are in orbit for many years, maybe 15 or even 20 years. So technology is evolving very fast, and you can't change the technology of a normal or huge satellite because it is impossible. And so you have to wait 20 years in order to change the satellite. So small satellites maybe will replace huge or normal satellites in the future, because you can, they are cheaper, and you can change the small satellites very, very quick. For instance, our satellite was in the space only for a year, and that's okay. If you need to do something better, you change the satellite. You wait to have the satellite destroyed by the atmosphere, and you send another satellite, but with better technology. So that's why small satellites and everything around them is called the new space. So you will read or hear about the new space. This is new space.
Okay, thank you. There's a follow-up question from Matthew. And is there any plan to send more CubeSat satellites or just one?
You mean for us?
Yes.
Yes. Now, as I told you, we are working on another satellite. We won a call from the United Nations and the Japanese Space Agency. So now we are working on Shiba-1 satellite. This satellite will study the active volcanoes in the world from the space. I told you that we have several active volcanoes in Mexico, as you have in Indonesia and other countries in Asia. So it is very important to study the volcanoes, but from the space. We will trying to know what about the gases the volcanoes are erupting, and maybe we don't know, maybe we can predict something dangerous, something a risk to the people, to the population.
So it's potentially will become like early warning for the volcano.
Yeah,
eruption.
sure. And we also have another, we just beginning another satellite project also with NASA about the protection of mammals, marine mammals, and in the oceans of the world. We will try to track the marine animals from the space, but at this very moment, this time not one satellite but four small satellites, and we would like to have a model for the future in order to study much better the marine mammals of the world.
That's really interesting. So the next question from Nukunar Sapahasta. How long can the CUBE satellite last in space? Would it be easily damaged?
Yeah, mostly they are in space for a year and a half, because they lose speed, velocity as time goes by, and after a year, the satellite make an spiral. I don't know if it is correct to say a spiral. It begins to go just to the earth, and when they enter the atmosphere, they are destroyed because they are they have huge temperatures, and so they simply disappear, disintegrate.
So there's one question that is related to that question. How long a satellite will decay if would they fall back to Earth? What is the factor of the satellite decaying rate? Does the satellite get affected from the surrounding?
I'm sorry, I had a problem with the sound. Again, please.
Okay, so there's question from Quesia. It's related to that question actually. How long a satellite will decay? As you mentioned, is the lifetime is 1.5 years, right? So if they decay, will they fall back to Earth? And what is the factor of the satellite decaying rate? And also, does the satellite get affected in the surrounding?
Yeah, I have some troubles with the sound, but as I told you before, this kind of satellites are 400 kilometers away from Earth. So this is a low orbit satellite. These kind of satellites, mostly, they don't have any kind of propulsion. I mean, they don't have little rockets in order to give them more velocity or speed. So they lose velocity and they go through to the Earth. And the power of the satellite is got from the sun. We have solar cells on the for instance, you can see these are solar cells. For 5 sides of the cube are covered by solar cells, so that's the way we have power in the satellite.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Professor. We still have a lot of questions. I think they're very enthusiastic today. From Agus Faturrahman, what is the general factor that determines the success of the rocket launching?
What is the what?
What is the general factor that determines the success of rocket launching?
You mean the launch?
Yes.
Okay, there are a lot of factors in order to have a successful launch. For instance, just the speed of the winds are very, very important in a launch. As you know, for instance, Artemis was not put in orbit, was not launched because some technical issues. There are a lot of technical issues you have to take in account in order to say go. And in a launch, there are thousands of factors, but one of the most important is the weather at that very moment.
Okay, so there are a lot of factors that determine the rocket launch. And
yes.
I think there's one more question, but I think it's already answered by you. It's about the power, because as you mentioned that it's powered by the solar panel, right? You have the solar panel in there.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think this is the last question. Do the satellite have a delay in sending information?
No, it's very, you see, it's the speed of the light. So it's almost instantaneous.
Wow, cool. So it's almost instantaneous, like directly.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Wonderful. And I think we still have time, like 3 minutes. Is there any questions?
I would like to take these minutes in order to say you children and youngsters of Asia that just dream and do what you dream, do what you want, try to get higher your dreams, your actions, your studies in order to be. This is a way to be happy. If you do what you want, if you do what you dream to do. So you are young people, you are a beautiful age in order to have a beautiful future, and we are living, and I think you will have just awesome future and very, very, very interesting future.
Okay, such an inspirational message from such a legend, Professor Eugenio. And I think that's closing statement also close the keynote speech session. And like Professor Eugenio mentioned, that dreams and impossibility is like something that is just an attitude. So dreams and what you want to do. And then
because Fifi, we live, Mexico is a developing country. It's not a first world country. So and if we can do that, you can do that. So please do it, just do it, as they say. So thank you very much, Fifi, because I really love to talk to children and youngsters.
Yeah, we thank you as well, because it's really insightful. And I hope like everyone here, youth here can be inspired as well. Dreams high and then probably make something big in the future.
Yeah, sure.
So thank you very much, Professor. I think this is our session today. And then before we continue to plenary session, I think we will have 5 minutes screen break. Please do the screen break, because I think it's really useful for your eyes to get a rest. And then we will back at 9 a.m. Indonesia time, Jakarta time. So see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
the mystical beauty of arts, culture, and heritage, from east to west. We are ready to welcome the world. We are strong. We are the heirs of generations to create a better future. BRIN for stronger Indonesia.
Welcome back to Young Citizens Conference 2022, presented by myself and organized by Dr. Rabbit Science Indonesia. As we see today, I would like to welcome our distinguished speakers that already joined virtually here. Dr. Ingenieur Wahyudi Hasbi. Good morning, Dr. Hasbi.
Yes, hello, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much, Mbak Vivi.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah.
Yes, it's just really a pleasure for me to be able to meet you all, even in online.
And also, I would like to greet our next distinguished speaker, Dr. Ardi Sutedja, President Director of PT Indonesia Dirgantara Expo Edx. Good morning, Dr. Ardi Sutedja.
Very good morning.
Yeah, how is it going?
Everything's fine. Slightly sunny today, and I hope we have a good session this morning.
We hope to. And then our next distinguished speaker, Dr. Filda Citra Yusgiantoro, Chairperson of Purnomo Yusgiantoro Center.
Hello.
Good morning. Good
Hi.
morning, Dr. Yusgiantoro. Hi.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to be back again in this conference.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you again in this conference. Because last year you also here. Okay, cool. And then I would like to greet our next distinguished speaker, Dr. Premana Premadi, Director of Bosscha of Observatory Institute Technology Bandung.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Dr. Premadi.
Thank you for having me today also. Thank you. All
Thank
best
you.
wishes for the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Doctor, for joining us today. So before we continue, I would like to explain again about the Young Citizens Conference. Young Citizens Conference, or YCC, are dedicated to the views and the concern of youth regarding the social impact of science and technology on the modern world, and gathering youth voices from all over the world, and also encouraging them to actively enter the discussion. And today, as we can see here, we're going to listen to our 4 distinguished speakers in the plenary session. And again, I'm so lucky to be here because we're going to discuss about interesting and diverse topics from our distinguished speaker. And now I think we're going to have Dr. Ingenieur Wahyudi Hasbi, SSE, MCOM, IPU, to speak about the satellite. But before that, please allow me to introduce who this gentleman is. He is head of Satellite Technology Research Center, Aviation and Space Research Organization, National Research and Innovation Agency, or also well known as BRIN. He's also associate researcher and coordinator for dissemination at the Center for Satellite Technology, National Institute of Aeronautics and Space, we call it LABAN. And he was also chief engineer of the LABAN, a 3 IPB satellite from 2013 until 2016, which was in orbit since 2016. He also received his doctorate in satellite system from Technische Universität Berlin, Germany, and also a Master of Computer Science from Bogor Agricultural University, Bogor, Indonesia in 2011. So without further ado, I will give the floor to Dr. Ingenieur Wahyudi Hasbi. To Dr. Hasbi, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Bu Vivi. Very good morning to all the youngsters, the space youngsters now. It's a great honor for me to be able to meet you all, and then also to share the latest development, especially on small satellites. So I will go through that one now. So we are talking about the future of small satellite development and application, and it's really interesting topic nowadays. So before we go through all the details, I think we have to, I would like to give you some outline of my presentation and sharing today. So we will go for the satellite history first, and then we will overview the satellite technology and small satellite trend and application, and also some development of small satellite in Indonesia as well. So if you want to know when the space activity started, so we know that there is a history that in 1942 the Germans V2 or rocket was launched, and then it was reached 100 kilometers from the Earth's surface, and then the rocket was designed by Werner von Braun from he's German's engineers, and then after the World War II, then he also later worked in NASA as the creator of the rockets that went to the moon. So this is the starting of our space activities in the world. So we have to start with the rocket, of course. And then if you like to see, this is the V2 rocket. So this was the first ballistic missile. And the V2 rocket was the first man-made object launched into the space. And during the test flight, it's reached altitude of 189 or in 1944. And this is the progenitor of the space race. And if you like to visit there, you can go to Purnomo Museum in Germany as well. So, and then after, at the end of the war, we know that there is a race between United States and Soviet Union during that time, and there are two things happen. So the Soviet Union bring as many as V2 rockets and stuff as possible, and then about 300 train load of the V2 rockets and part was captured and shipped to US. And then 126 of the principal designer of this rocket was in American hands. So there is a fight during the end of the war to choose the best engineers and also the materials there. And then, but anyway, only two bomber V2 were ever launched from Cape Canaveral in US. And it was successfully fired on 24 July 1950. And the B-7 was successfully fired on July 29 in 1950. And then we also know that the idea of using a satellite as a mirror in space to bounce a signal from the space, and it was launched in 1945, and then during the time, actually there is authors making science fiction books called Arthur C. Clarke, who wrote about two hugely influential articles setting out of his plan of details, how to make how to develop a satellite and put it in the space to bounce the signals. And then he also published another book like Extraterrestrial Relays. And then his proposal is to place 3 satellites in geosynchronized orbit, like 35 kilometers above the Earth, and then space 1/3 of the Earth. So one would cover Africa and Europe, and the second covered China and Asia, and the third dedicated to US. And even the Mr. Clarke didn't patent the geocommunication satellite. He's generally credited for the invention. And then also there is another German space pioneer. His name is Hermann Oberth. Also proposed the similar ideas some years before. And then in 1947, there is a first animals were launched into the space. So this is you can see here, this is Fruit flies were used to study the effect of the space travel on animals, and were chosen because they are more similar to the human that you might imagine. So it's very interesting that they launch flies, right? And then in 1949, there is also a launch of the first monkey in space, and then its name is Albert II. It was a rhesus monkey, a type of monkey that come from Asia. And then Albert went to space in 14 June 1949, and especially adapted in American V2 rockets. And it flew until 83 miles from the Earth, so you can see here. And then in 1957, this is one of the historical moments, and every year in October 4th, we are celebrating this as the first man-made satellite. So this was Sputnik, launched by Russia into the space. And then Sputnik was become the first satellite in orbit. And currently, of course, there are more than 500, but I believe it's more than like 1,200, so something like that. So this is the satellite is like a basketball actually. So you can see here, this is the first world artificial satellite. So the size is about basketball, and the mass is about only 180 pounds. And then it took about 98 minutes to orbit the Earth on its elliptical paths. So then this became one of the very beginning of the space race. So this is the rocket actually, and then this is the two engineers that kept secret. So the name is Mr. Korolev, and also they become the chief designer and chief theoretist of the cosmonauts. So the name is Sergei Korolev and Mr. Kaldis. And then this is the internal view of the Sputnik 1. So this is like a ball, and then if you separate this one, you can see the inside. There is only some radio transmitter that only sends some beep, but this is enough to make everybody's really happy during the time. And then 1 month later, Russia also launched another very surprisingly, they launched Sputnik 2. And this is very interesting because inside of the Sputnik 2, there was a dog. Okay, so the dog is here, and the name is Laika. So you can see here. So the first dog going to the space is Laika. So it's the dog is like the mission of this putting the dog inside is to help the scientists to understand whether people could survive in space. So you can imagine that one. And then this is all the rocket of Sputnik. So all Sputniks is launched by R7 vehicle developed by the Russian. Originally, it was developed for nuclear warhead. So they can put nuclear warhead here and launch it to other cities or other country if there is a war. So we expect that this will never ever happen in our world, right? And then how about US? Then the US start to attempt their launch. So they started in 6 December 1957. They start to launch the Vanguard TV. However, there is a failure, and this is quite a big unfortunate for US. And then they try again, and finally on 31st January 1958, the first United States satellite called Explorer 1 was launched and successfully. So the Sputnik's satellite launch directly make effect to US, and then they start to develop the National Aeronautic and Space, as we call as NASA right now, in 1958. Okay, and then another surprise coming in. So in April 12, 1961, the first manned launch into the space, cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man in the space, and he can really complete one orbit before landed again back to the Earth. And then and it's very interesting because he landed using his in one of very far away from the planned area of landed. So there is some history that he is helped by farmers in Russia, and everybody wondered who is this guy is coming from the space, and then he mentioned that he is an astronaut, and then okay, then they call the relevant office in Russia and help him back. So this is the start of we call a space race. And then we know that after that, the Apollo 11 also could place the man into the moon. And then I would like to also show you there is some international regulation, and then it is managed by United Nations, called the United Nations Treaties on Outer Space. So actually, the space should be used for there is a what we call outer space treaty, and then also there is some regulation on rescue agreement, liability convention, and registration convention, and moon agreement. So actually all these treaties is supposed to be used only for non-military purpose in space. Okay, so we have to comply with all this UN regulation here. Okay, so now we start with the overview of the satellite. So actually there are 4 at least satellite applications that we can see. First is the communication, remote sensing, and science as well, and also navigation. So this is the most application or mission for the satellite development. And also, of course, the satellite also can be divided based on the orbit and also based on mass or the weight. Okay, and then for the orbit, there are several orbit like LEO or low Earth orbit satellite, and then MEO or medium Earth orbit satellite. The LEO, let's say, start from 1,200 kilometers down to like 400 kilometers. And then the medium Earth orbit is like 12,000 kilometers. And then the GEO or geosynchronous Earth orbit satellite is about 35 to 36,000 kilometers. So you can imagine how far is it. And then from the application point of view, you can see there is a communication, weather, and also this is one of the example to make maritime surveillance as well. And then also the satellite typically used for natural resources and land use and infrastructure development and so on. And also this is one of the example how we can see the Jakarta area we can see a lot of ships and also a lot land subsidence. So you can see here, and this is and also the satellite can be used for military application. So this is during the war in Iraq, for example. This is before the strike, and after the strike, all will be monitored by the satellite system. And then the navigation satellite, we know that currently we have a lot of use of this GPS. You can imagine without your GPS in your mobile phone, you will never reach somebody faster. So that's the reason why the navigation satellite is very important. and it can be used for many applications from civilian to military purpose as well. So from the mass, you can see there are several type of satellite, starting from large satellite like more than 500 kilograms, small satellite 100 to 500, micro satellite 10 to 100 kilograms, nano satellite starting from 1 to 10 kilograms, until femtosatellite. It's like 0.001 to 0.01 kilograms. So it's very, very tiny satellite. Like this one, yeah. This is a chipsat. It's very, very small. And then this is another satellite. So this is our satellite that we developed in Indonesia. This is called 883. So this is another nano satellite. So the size is less than 10 kilogram. And then this is the CubeSat. It's like one kilogram class. So what is the trend for the satellite now? So you can see here the trend until 2030. There will be like 1,700 satellites to be launched every year until 2030, and a lot of markets there, like market value distribution here. So 73% for manufacturing of the satellite, and 27% for the rockets, and then there is also geo satellite as well here. And then this is we can see some numbers. So numbers until 2031 there will be 17,000 satellites has to be launched, and then the revenue is quite very big here, like 234 billion US dollars, something like that. Okay, so there is a future there. And then why small satellite and LEO satellite? Because we can see here SpaceX launched their Starlink satellite. So now it's more than 500 launch, and then they will launch until 42,000 satellite in orbit. So you can imagine how much it is. 42,000 satellite in orbit later on. And then another like Amazon and OneWeb also plan to launch like also until 2,000 planned satellite. And then this is very interesting. I would like also to show you. Here you can see this is a Starlink satellite. So this is like a train. So this is after the launch, we can see the satellite is just running like a train here in our space. Okay, so this is very, very interesting to see. So many satellites have to be launched, and there is also a question in the keynote speech why we use a small satellite. So this is the reason. From the risk, small satellite allow us to make easy for experimentation. We can use the component of the cell in the market. We don't need to buy very expensive component, and then we can use as a learning outcome, and then we can use the paradigm of fly, learn, and refly easily, and faster development time, and also it has a advantage of using the latest technology faster. And then we can also expand the platform or bus, especially in high-risk orbit. Actually, the orbit is quite high risk because a lot of radiation, and also the thermal system has to be taken care and so on. And then we can use this for new mission as well, and relatively low cost. And then this small satellite is sometimes used to reduce the risk for non-small satellite. Okay, and then this is also another reason why small satellite, because everything is going small. So you can see here the battery cell energy density is getting higher and higher. So it means that we don't need to have a very big volume of battery to have high density compared to many years ago. And also here we can develop also very small thruster, very small reaction wheel, and also some other sensor here. So this is one of the reasons why everything is going to small now. And then this is the application. So the small satellite application, it starts from the Earth and space observation, IoT and communication, the asset tracking. So we can see also animals by using the asset tracking. Also for science and environment, security and defense, and also other small satellite application. So a lot of application can be used in the satellite. So this is also another example of our satellite that we have developed. So this is the equatorial 8A2 satellite. So you can see the orbit here, and this is the polar orbit satellite we call 8A3. So it has a vision to capture the image of the Earth. So you can see here. So it's very nice to see the satellite from the 600 kilometers above the Earth. Okay. And then this is our satellite that we developed. So the satellite carry a video camera. So you can imagine you are an astronaut flying in ISS, and then you want to capture some image in the Earth. So you can see here. So you can become a helicopter pilot, and then you want to make a video of some interesting object of the Earth here. And then this is also another example. So I would like to show you. This is the Mount of Merapi. This is how. Sorry. So this is how we can see our Merapi mountain by using a satellite, by using a video camera on board the satellite. So. And then from the video of this space here, we can make a framing and stitching process and image enhancement later on. Okay. And then this is also, so this is youngsters. So this is some students try to make a communication. And then they use a very they can use a very small antenna like this one, and they can also make a communication. Okay, so why make a amateur satellite communication is very important, because during a disaster, of course, the normal communication will be blackout. So we can use a satellite for communication as well. Okay, so this is another example. So they can use a satellite to monitor some plants here, and then this also another sample how you can send a message through the satellite, and everybody can see your message here. Okay, this is by very simple handy talking. This is another application as well. I can show you here. This is the image coming from our 8A2 and 8A3 satellite. And then we can image the full of Indonesia, and also during a disaster here. So we can capture the image, and also from the mountain during an eruption like Krakatau eruption as well, and when there is a forest fire in Vietnam. And we can also monitor some ship here, and also we can measure the Earth magnetic field from our Earth, and also making a communication. And then this is the is the CubeSat era now. So as I mentioned to you, the CubeSat size is only 10 centimeters, and then you can use for planetary science, earth science, astrophysics, and some instruments, and also some other technology. Okay, and then this is the timeline. So actually, less than 2 years, you can launch your CubeSat. So I really encourage you as well to develop your CubeSat now. And then this is one of the example how the students in Indonesia also develop the CubeSat. So starting from UNOSA, so they get a free launch from United Nations for outer space. And then this is some meetings. And then after that, they can start to develop the preliminary design and pre-engineering models, and finally they can make the engineering model and also the flight model. So finally, this is the assembly trial, and then finally the CubeSat is ready, and this SS1 satellite CubeSat is now in the United States and ready to be launched also with SpaceX Falcon 9 in early November this year. So I really encourage all of you, all the youngsters, to also start to develop your CubeSat and feel the experience of developing the small satellite. So with that, I would like to conclude my my talk today, and thank you very much for your attention, and we can have some discussion later. So thank you. I will give it back to Bu Vivi.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wahyudi Hasbi, for such an valuable information presentation. It's really insightful. But as for the Q&A, we will have the Q&A sessions later after the presentation. So we will move on to our next distinguished speaker, Dr. Ardi Sutedja. But before that, allow me to introduce who this gentleman is. So Dr. Ardi Sutedja is the President Director of PT Indonesia Dirgantara Expo. We know it as IDX, a national event organizer, company that focuses on activities related to technology, including information and communication technology, aerospace technology, aviation, and maritime technology. He is also one of the founders and administrators of the Indonesia Cyber Security Forum, or we know it as ICSF, and the Indonesia Chief Information Officers Forum, or ID.CIO. He has also been appointed as chairman of the honorary board of the Indonesian Digital Forensic Association, or AFDI, a member of the honorary and ethics council of the Indonesian Fintech Associations. So without further ado, so please welcome Dr. Ardi Sutedja. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Vivi. It's an honor for me to be invited in speaking in this forum this morning. It was quite encouraging. After hearing what Pak Wahyudi just presented, I still remember in 1976, when we launched our first satellite into orbit, at Cape Canaveral in Florida, and it was very exciting time for Indonesia. Where we were the third country in the world to launch and manage our own commercial satellite in 1976. So we have already entered the space world back in 76, and that was the first time that Indonesia actually entered the era of digital environment. But having said that, I would like to talk to you all this morning about something slightly different, but still in line with our topic this morning. But I will talk about something from the perspective of risk management in technology, because I think it's very equally important to talk about risk management, because everyone, as the young people now, is very, very keen and very eager to learn about technology. I still remember my time back then. I was very eager to learn many things. That was the time that really brought me into my career in the field of ICT, till today. So please allow me to share my screen, if I may. You can see my screen, yeah, everyone?
Yes, it's working.
Okay. So I'm very concerned about technology, yeah. I'm very fond of technology, but the rapid development of technology in the world today, it gives us less time to learn about technology because of so rapid the new technology comes into the market, yeah. And as you know, now technology is changing by every day, no longer in months, but they change by minutes. Every minute there is new technology in the market. And so that is why we need to talk about this, the risk, before we embark on our journey into learning about technologies. Okay, the way I look at technologies, everything about technology is now connected through IP, Internet Protocol. Everything that we do in life is connected to Internet Protocol. So when we talk about Internet Protocol, everything that we have in our hands is connected. We call it hyper-connected. We have the internet, we have the device, the personal device, we have satellite, which Wahyudi just described earlier. So everything's connected. So therefore, when everything's connected, it's going to be very, very risky for us if we don't know how to manage all this technology. And it can also be something of a threat, a threat to our nation, where it's becoming a risk to national security. This is why it's very important for everyone going into the technology field to understand also the risks. Secondly, when we talk about technology, it's very important also to look from the helicopter view to really understand and have the landscape. Because I was very inspired why I mentioned the helicopter view, because when I was learning something about satellite in 1976, I noticed that that's the first time that I saw the globe, very small, but you can see everything. That's why it's very important to learn technology by looking from the view from very higher up to really understand the landscape, the landscape, what it is, why is it important for us, where are we going with this technology, and also its impact. Thirdly, this is one of my field of interest. I've been involved in information security management for more than 30 years. This is why becoming a big risk for us. Having said that, we are using we are actually user of technology. We need to understand there are risks in technology. That's why before we embark in involving ourselves or using technology, we need to learn all the aspects of the technology and its risks. Indonesia is prone to various risks in technology. The current topic and issue now is talking about cyber. So many elements in cyberspace. There are so many risks, and we're entering something somewhat similar to going into the forests. Forests where there are so many threats and predators inside the forest. This is also something very interesting that no one talks about, because no one cares about the impact, the economic costs of cyber breach, cyber attack. And if you can see, the cost of cyber breach is now calculated in seconds, and there is no value below anything below $1,000 US. Minimum is $190,000 US a second. That's the cost of economic loss when you suffer a cyber breach. Okay, let's look at the US. Where are they now with the cyber threat? The U.S. itself, during its recent testimony at the U.S. Senate, the chairman of the NSA and also the chairman, the head of the U.S. Cyber Command, testified that the U.S. is now overwhelmed, yeah, with a lot of the cyber attacks, the new APT, yeah, Advanced Persistent Threat. So they are also learning and trying to cope with all the volume, yeah, the increase in volumes of cyber attacks. So this is also what we are now facing in Indonesia. The volume has increased. We have a lot to learn, and we have to also identify a lot of the risks that we are now facing. This is a new battlefield as well. Privacy is becoming now an issue. Whereas we during the last few weeks we have encountered many press report with regards to data breach. Yeah, a lot of data has been pilfered from various government agencies and organizations. So no one is immune from cyber attack. Yeah, this is what why I need to underline that whatever technology there is, there's always a risk to technology. Cyber attacks are very real. Yeah. If you have not experienced any cyber attack, then you will not know, how to feel in becoming a victim. It's not a matter of if, yeah, but we have to also to think that if we are getting attacked or we have been getting, if we are getting breached, what are we going to do? Yeah. This is another issue that's been been raised in various circles and discussions, is what to do when we suffer a cyber attack. So now we'll look at what are the components when we go into cyber warfare. Yeah, what are the components? Apart from the attack itself, cyber attack needs three basic components. There is hardware, software, and data, and of course cognitive, yeah, human mind. Without this, I don't think any cyber attack can be very successful. Now, why the cognitive aspect is very important? Yeah, because hacker or cyber attacker always prey on the weakest link in technologies. There is the human mind and the human being. They always prey on the weakest link to gain access to certain proprietary technologies, informations, and everything that is required to do the next step or next phase of the attack. And now we look at cyber attack itself. Yeah, we tend to think that cyber attack is always comes in single mode, but the reality and the truth is, no cyber attack can be successful with only one attack. It always come minimum with two forms of attack. One attack is a decoy, and the other attack is the penetration attack. And this is what we have to understand. Yeah, and this is very dangerous when you have only time to learn only one attack, the signature of one attack. You will not have time to learn but the signature of the second attack. That's why a lot of cyber attack has been very successful, because we did not anticipate the second attack coming into the attack mode. Now let's look at the impact of cyber attack. Basically, when we suffer cyber attack, it's not a cyber attack itself, but the impact that we have to really examine. Yeah, there are 4 areas of impact. One of them is the physical impact. Secondly is the psychological impact. And fourthly is the economic loss due to the cyber attack. And of course, when you suffer cyber attack, it exposes your defense mechanism, your defense perimeter, and everything is open. Yeah, open, where all the weakest links are being exposed. Yeah. Now let's look at the new emerging and new technologies. Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, new technology is fascinating. Yeah. There's always new things to learn, but also, again, you have to also learn the risks. And bear in mind, Many of the technologies that we are now using are not the technology developed by ourselves or developed by our colleagues or developed by Indonesians. We are users of technologies. We just use what they gave us. We just use what we buy. And we don't have the time to learn the technology itself, including the risks and other things that we need to learn to protect ourselves. Now let's look at something which is becoming a buzzword lately in Indonesia with regards to digital transformation. My apologies that some of the slides are still in Bahasa, but let me just explain that the element of digital transformation. What are the necessity? What are the requirements? Yeah. Firstly, when you talk about digital transformation, it's all about three things. It's about people, process, and technologies. Yeah. And second to that, when you are doing a digital transformation, you need to have a proper research. Yeah, you need to conduct a proper research, proper planning, and there has to be some motivation behind the program in transforming yourself. And of course, you need a leadership, a competent and also committed leadership in developing the digital transformation. And of course, you need to have a proper budget, new technologies. Yeah, you cannot have old technologies into the process of digital transformation, and other required resources. You will need those. And fourth, you have to understand also the risks. Yeah, when we talk about risk, of course, we are talking about cyber risks. In all technology, there are cyber risks. Yeah, and of course, when the big picture, when you talk about digital transformation, yeah, it has to be sustainable. Yeah, there has to be some continuity, and of course, you need to have a proper public accountability in digital transformation. Having said that, again, there are 11 parameters that needs to be followed. Yeah, but I will only stress a few. About 70% of all the digital transformation program were not very successful because they lack of research, planning, and leadership. Yeah, and a lot of the problem that we now face because we did not have a proper guideline. Yeah, we don't have the understanding of the whole issues about the program, and it's not sustainable. So there are things that we need to really understand about digital transformation. It's not all about buying computers, buying handphone for everyone. It's about process and understanding the whole process from the helicopter view. That is what digital transformation is all about. Now let's look how the cyber attack or hacker perform their attack. As I mentioned earlier, no cyber attack are conducted in a single mode. It's always a multiple mode. The flow that a lot of hackers are following, they always conduct an early recognitions, yeah, or as observing all the weakest link into the system. When they find the weakest link, then they will what we call penetrate. They will conduct penetration to do an implant, yeah, of malware or virus into the system. And if they are successful in planting this, then it's only a matter of time before the whole system or the whole infrastructure, the computer infrastructure, is being infected. This also applies not only to servers but also to firmware. You know, every technology has a firmware, yeah. And this is one of the area that we are not conducting any deep research in assessing the risk in cyberspace. Yeah, firmware integrity is the most important now, most important topic in understanding the future risks of technologies. Yeah, so this is the flow of how hackers conduct their attack. So how do we cope with all these problems now? Yeah, everybody's asking, how do we cope? How do we manage? Yeah, a lot of these issues. First of all, you need to understand that since 1976, when we launched our first satellite, we have not yet to develop our digital culture. This is why we're now facing a lot of problems. Yeah, digital culture is very essential when you're learning about technologies, especially in the consumer market. Without this and without the understanding, of course, a lot of the negative effect and impact will happen. That's why it's very important for all of us to learn about the etiquette, yeah, previously called netiquette. We call it in bahasa tata krama, or etiquette of using the internet is very important now, but lately it's been overlooked. That's why it's very important for all of us to learn about internet etiquette. Yeah. Apart from the digital culture, we also have to change the way we think about the threat that we're now facing. The old way of thinking is to secure and to protect ourselves. We built a fence around our home to protect our home from bad people coming into our house. But given all the technologies and the development of technologies, now the bad people are actually already inside our house in the form of technologies. Yeah, our handphones, our CCTV, our Wi-Fi, those are now the threats inside our home. So the school of thoughts needs to be changed, and we need to devise and to think how to protect ourselves, having known that now the potential threats are also already inside our home itself. It's not a matter of how you cope with technologies to manage the risk. Yeah, it's how to respond to it. Are you able to respond to the threats? Are you able to respond to the attack? This is what it counts. You don't have the mechanism, or you don't have the ability to respond, then everything is already finished. Yeah, it can be a threat to ourselves, it can be a threat to our nation, it can be a threat to our life, it can be a threat to our business continuity, it can be a threat to everything that we live for. Therefore, we have to remember, unless we understand the risks about new technologies, it can become a new pandemic for us. Yeah, and once it becomes a pandemic, then it's going to become a bigger problem than we ever anticipate. Having said that, I would call everyone in this session, in this conference this morning, to bond together and understanding the risks, because a lot of these risks are not the responsible of a single agencies. It's not a responsibility of the cyber security experts, the scientists, but it is a responsibility of everyone. That's why we call, when we approach the responsibility issues, managing cybersecurity issues becoming a collective responsibility. With that, I conclude my very short presentation. I hope this can be something of a mind-boggling for us to think, and hopefully it can raise further discussion during this session this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Ardi Sutedja, for such a interesting topic, and it's quite niche probably in Indonesia. And it's really important that what matters is how you respond to cyber incidents. So for you young science enthusiasts here, please thinking about the question that you want to ask to the distinguished speakers, because later we will have the Q&A sessions after the presentation sessions. Okay, now we're going to move on to next presentation. We will have Dr. Filda Yusgiantoro from Purnomo Yusgiantoro Center that will talk about energy and now and the future. But before we start, probably allow me to introduce who Dr. Yusgiantoro is. So Dr. Yusgiantoro is the chairperson of Purnomo Yusgiantoro Center. She received her bachelor in Chemical Engineering Institute Teknologi Bandung and master in Business and Management Universidad Tekli Studi Padova, Italy, and MBA in Business Administration in Nanyang Business School, Singapore, and PhD in Business and Economics, Monash University, Australia. And she is also now a lecturer of University Prasetya Mulia Tangerang. So without further ado, I will give the floor to Dr. Yusgiantoro. So Dr. Yusgiantoro, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Fifi. Greetings to everyone from Jakarta. I'd like, first of all, to thank the organizer for inviting me today. It's an honor for me to have the opportunity to address the topic of energy now and future, but also related to the future of space, to distinguish young audience here. I'm also amazed that all of you here, despite that we are on Saturday now. So thank you for attending this conference as well. So my goal today is for you to understand the connection between energy and also the space, because we're using energy for lots of energy actually for the space environment here. First of all, I would like to introduce you a little bit about our center, the Purnomo Yusgiantoro Center. Maybe I will share the slides now. Felicia, maybe. Sorry. Okay. So our future in space, energy in space. This is our center. The Purnomo Yusgiantoro Center is a non-profit organization established in 2016. We are devoted to the independent and in-depth research in energy sector. So we provide policy solutions and also recommendations at the local and regional and also global level. To achieve these goals, we've done a lot of things. We held conference, seminars, or workshops, and also published several publications, reports that is related to the energy sector. Apart from that, we have also on the social front that we are doing a lot of events, including the health sector, the well-being, and also education, and also promotes also the Indonesian traditional culture. Most of our works is close to young generations as well, because we understand that the young generation is the future of our future to change the world, especially in the energy sector. Just a brief information before we lead our discussion to the use of energy in the space. So the global average temperature actually has increased. In the screens that from the second industrial revolution, which is started in 1860, has started lots of industries, and also they use lots of energy, fossil fuel energy, and so on. But after 1914 here, that there was an increase of global temperature, which was affected by the Industrial Revolution, which also ended to the World War II. As you can see here, that lasted in 1945. However, we see that there is a stagnant trend on global average temperature between 1940 until 1970. So most scientists suspect that this sudden massive output is sourced from the aerosols from the industries and also power plants that contributed to the global cooling trend until 1970. But please keep in mind that the aerosols do not only come from the household products that maybe come from like hairsprays and so on, but also the aerosols comes from the mineral dust, and sea salt, and also volcanic dust, biogenic aerosol, and so on. So there was also speculation that from the volcanic that burst the particle gas, which led the sunlight to be blocked, making that the earth cooler. However, in 1980s, there's a slight cooling trend has stopped. Aerosol pollution had decreased in many areas due to the environmental legislation and changes in fuel use and so on, making a stagnant of the slight cooling trend here. And people began to question the theory of maybe there's an upcoming of ice age in the future because of this. So lots of people, especially in the environmental, like NGOs, started to advocate the global environmental production to prevent global warming. And many news shows that in 2020, as we can see here, is the second warmest year. That's like 2 years ago, right? So the global mean temperature in 2020 is estimated around 1.27 degrees above the average temperature compared to the late 19th centuries. So this is quite an alarming, and can be expected that the global warming caused by greenhouse gases, the temperature increase over the globe is broadly distributed, as we can see here, as we can see in many several countries, that there is it's more warmer or more colder, which I had recently just hearing from my colleagues in Australia and also in Europe that the temperature is unusual compared to several years ago. So the Earth is facing a number of related challenges, not only for the climate change, but also for like population growth and also rising the energy needs and so on. The global commitment then says that there is a need to be a reduction of the CO2 emissions, the carbon dioxide emissions. That's why it initiated the Paris Agreement in 2015. It was adoption of the 2 universal agendas for sustainable development in Paris climate and the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations. So what is actually this agreement? Well, this is an important, large agreement by many countries, and it is a goal to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, or preferably around 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to the pre-industrial levels. To achieve this long-term temperature goal, countries aim to reach this level of peaking of greenhouse gas emissions as soon as possible to achieve the climate neutral world by mid-century. So this is one of the concerns why the energy sector, which mostly use the fossil fuel energy, as known as, how do you say, emit lots of carbon dioxide emissions, to be reduced and shifted to the more to the cleaner energy, such as renewables energy. So these are several examples for the renewables energy. This one of the popular one actually in Indonesia is the solar energy, which also the government has actually initiated many regulations on that, because as maybe most of us are concerned that solar energy, the source of solar energy is from the sun. So turning the sun rays into electricity is sure to catch interest of all of us. And there's also hydro, meaning that the source for hydro is from water. If you have, like in in your local area that you have a constant movement of, for example, like water river, from the mountains or so on, you can use that as a hydro energy. And there are also wind energy, but also depends on the strength of the winds itself that can be used as an energy. In Indonesia, we have the largest geothermal sources. However, it is quite difficult for us because the investment is quite high compared to the other renewables energy. If we want to utilize, maximize the geothermal potency. And the last part is that we have also the source of energy for biomass. So the renewables energy. Biomass comes from many things, from crops, manure of the animals, and also other waste that can be used as an energy. So renewables energy is a big thing right now. And if we don't redirect our energy needs to renewable energy, well, the predictions of the environment is quite worrying. So we expect to experience rising temperatures, heat waves, and so on if we don't shift that to renewable energy. So what does that has to do with what I'm going to explain to you about hydrogen and space? So the basic of hydrogen, H2, like if we learn about chemical, H2, can be derived from many things. Yeah, if we understand about water, the chemical compounds is H2O, right? So if we do like electrolysis of the H2O, separate the H2, the hydrogen and oxygen, then you can get the hydrogen, the chemical compounds of hydrogen, right? So producing hydrogen is not only from water, but also can be derived from renewables energy as well, especially from natural gas, even though it's not renewables, but it's one of the energy transition to renewables energy from natural gas. So if we can see here in the screen that the green flow, it means that a hydrogen production is from renewables. And the blue line means that a hydrogen production is from natural gas, but also with the technology of the CCUS. CCUS is a technology to capture the carbon that is emitted from the production of the natural gas. By 2020, the majority of hydrogen is still actually produced from fossil fuels. So not from renewables, but and not from natural gas. So this is quite also a concern for many of us because, again, it will affect the environment surrounding us. So there are lots of technology. This may be a bit of technical, but this is important that the hydrogen from the fossil fuels can be done with a steam methane reforming, but also it also still emits greenhouse gases. But if we derive from the production from the water through the technology of electrolysis, it can separate the hydrogen and oxygen. And from the electrolysis that we can use wind, solar, geothermal, biomass, sorry, not fossil fuel, biomass, and other energy, renewable energy sources. So this hydrogen actually is a big thing, even though lots of people say that the technology is not cheap. But I think most of the people think that this is the future because hydrogen is a clean energy, and it's also actually is a safe energy that can be used in many sectors. We can use this hydrogen fuel, for example, like in vehicles. if you go to Japan, they are using many of the hydrogen fuel in their cars, and also for buses, commercial buses. And the last one is used in the spacecraft propulsion. So this is where we touch about rocket. Yeah, maybe Pak Wahyudi and Pak Ardi mentioned about satellites, but I'm now focusing on the use of hydrogen in rockets. So hydrogen is abundant actually in the universe. If you see water, which I also mentioned several times previously, we have lots of water in this earth. The water can be used to produce hydrogen. So NASA uses hydrogens in a form of liquid. So why does NASA use liquid hydrogen as a fuel for its rocket, even though it is still difficult to work on? Maybe handling, storage is also difficult. So the reason is that hydrogen is a very efficient fuel, meaning that it provides better gas mileage when used in rocket engines, meaning that using a small amount, literally small amount of hydrogen can increase the length of the destinations of the rockets, in literally in a simple way of speaking like that. When hydrogen is burned with oxygen, it will have a strong a strong thrust to the rockets. That's why they use the hydrogen fuel for that, and have a liftoff, a thrust of the liftoff, and also for navigation thrusters in the orbit itself. So for decades, NASA has relied upon this hydrogen liquid fuel as a rocket fuel to deliver the crew and also cargo to space. So in the future as well, I have also research about the continuous of the hydrogen usage, that they can develop also to recycle the hydrogen in space. That will decrease the cost and also the complexity of the remote mission by reducing the needs for supplies delivered from Earth. So I think the development of the hydrogen is still continuous, and is a really a good prospect to be researched as well. Apart from fuel rockets, as I also have mentioned, that hydrogen is used in oil refining, in industries, for example, like ammonia production, methanol production, and also lots of potential for emission reductions in the fossil fuels industry. And also hydrogen is used in transportation. The competitiveness of hydrogen fuel cell cars is also depends on the fuel cell costs, and also the station itself, how to refuel the hydrogen fuel. Well, in economic, we understand about price and quality, price and quantity. So if the quantity of hydrogen fuel increase, it means that the price will also decrease. But for now, under many of the research, still in a stage of research, this means that we see the hydrogen fuel is still not economic feasibility, not feasible economic feasibility, sorry. So this can also be used, hydrogen fuel, in shipping, also in aviation as well. In buildings, there is also potential to use this hydrogen chemical compound, and also in power generation. So that leads us to whom are now the leader for developing the hydrogen. So as we can see here, that there's this example that in 2017 in Japan became the first country to formulate the roadmap for the hydrogen strategy because of its ambition to become the world's first hydrogen society by adopting the fuel of hydrogen in all sectors. However, because of the lack of natural resources, actually, so they have a long-term supply to import hydrogen from overseas. So, but they are one of the many countries that lead in this hydrogen industry. The second country is from China. China, we already understand the population, the numbers of population is really high. So they are the lead for consumer for the hydrogen industry compared to other countries. They actually issued also the hydrogen roadmap a year earlier, actually, from Japan. And they have included the fuel of hydrogen into many vehicles and also commercial vehicles in the country. The last one is Brunei. Brunei just recently developed a technology, an efficient technology for shipping hydrogen, because Brunei has a long-term contract with Japan to export this hydrogen fuel to Japan, which will make, which they develop the technology efficiently to have a more efficient supply chain from the sources and also from the countries that are receiving it. The question is, so what are the challenges? What are the challenges for using this hydrogen? Well, first of all, in extreme conditions, such as in space, storing hydrogen or using hydrogen means that there are still risk as well to use this, because the technology is still developing. So in extreme conditions, there is also a safety issues in using this. To compensate, for example, like what Brunei has done with the transportation efficiency of the hydrogen, transporting the hydrogen to Japan, this can also be done if the research and development is still going on to have a safer hydrogen fuel usage. The second was about public perception. Most of us, if we don't learn about chemical compounds, we tend to have negative perceptions on chemical compounds, including this hydrogen. If we look back on the usage of hydrogen, actually, lots of the hydrogen usage actually has been used, for example, like hot air balloons, in the Zeppelins, the big hot air balloons, and also in airships in around a year 1800 actually. So because hydrogen is not used anymore because of the incidents in several years ago, I mean a couple of years ago, that there's an outburst of the hot air balloon from the Zeppelins that left all of us in the public perception that, you know, hydrogen maybe is not safe. But I believe that if we develop a good technology to make this safer, and also NASA has already used this several years ago, I mean a decade actually, then you know, this public perception is needs to be shifted to more optimistic through good communications on the users actually. But you know, again, hydrogen is a new energy, is a new and is not really unfamiliar energy use in many countries, especially like in Indonesia as developing countries. And the third one is the infrastructure. So again, the transportation and also the storage, that is a challenge. How can the storage and also the transportation can be safe on moving this hydrogen in forms of liquid or in forms of gas? So the role of the young generation in future space, if I may want to speak, is that to change the world is to discover new things through technology. Every day we learn new things. Do not limit what you want to know, through creative minds and also innovations that make this world a better place as well. I think to explore other subjects besides interest in technology is also good. Because if you can learn about economics or about a business side, that will also enrich your knowledge. Just like me, my background is engineering, and then I learned business and also economic side. So one of the things that I learned lots of things that I don't see only developing some technology, but I can see how this technology can be feasible and can be commercialized in the society. So do that, explore other subjects, and lastly, do well through your current formal education right now, as what our funder, Professor Purnomo Yusgiantoro, has also mentioned several times in our center, is that education is a powerful bridge for one to make a change. Again, dream big and trust that your dream will become reality. Thank you, and I will give back to Fifi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Filda Yusgiantoro, for the insightful presentation. And I would like to remind you all to thinking about your question, because we will have a question and answer session later after the presentation session. Okay, now we will move on to our next distinguished speaker, Dr. Premana Premadi, which name is pinned to the asteroid 12937 Premadi. But before that, please allow me to introduce who Dr. Premadi is. Dr. Premadi is Associate Professor in Astrophysics and Cosmology, Institut Teknologi Bandung. She is also a Director of Bosscha Observatory, Institut Teknologi Bandung, and Postdoctoral Research Fellow, Astronomical Institute, Tohoku University, Japan, and teaching faculty member in Department of Astronomy, Institut Teknologi Bandung until now. So now I will give the floor to Dr. Premadi. Dr. Premana Premadi, the stage is yours.
Everyone, very happy to be part of this really nice gathering with scientists, engineers, and all people who are concerned with the future of our Earth, of our civilization, and also with education. So thank you for including me in this gathering. If I may share my presentation. I hope it's appearing clearly.
Yeah, it's working.
Great, thank you. So I like to start with showing you beautiful part of the universe where stars are born, old stars are dying, and we're part of all this magnificent universe. The first question is, why are we so interested in space, in the sky? There are many answers, of course, because it's beautiful, it's immense, because we are in it, but also because we are curious by nature. Human beings are the kind of sentient being who are always very, very curious, and you can add many more reasons to it, but the fact is we are all in awe of the sky. Astronomy is a very old science. It's part of the manifestations of human curiosity, human trying to really understand their existence in an environment close to them and also in a very, very large environment, the universe itself. So you can see here, people have started to collect data, observe very many kind of objects, celestial objects. Some are for practical purpose, to know what time is it and where you're going. So it's for navigation, for timekeeping, to know the season, but also for something which is perhaps at that time for no particular purpose, but for the knowledge itself. So we will see later that there are part of knowledge that are not necessarily directly something that people use in practice, but that is part of the human curiosity that we have shown in the last slide. So what is required actually when you want to learn about the universe? Well, we start with something very simple. Just enjoy looking at the sky, whether it's during the day or during the evening, and you observe what is coming and going regularly, what are not. You see comets, you see meteorites like this, you see the Milky Way, you see stellar constellations that you recognize. How much do you want to know? How much further do you want to understand about what you see? So basically, trying to ask lots and lots of questions. So human beings are very good with all those, observing and asking questions, and therefore knowledge accumulate. We can construct knowledge because we ask lots and lots of questions. Not only for practical purpose, but also for the sake of knowledge itself. I have shown you what the sky looked like just using naked eyes, or these days with very small telescopes, very small instrument to aid our eye. But technology has gone really, really a lot into something which is very sophisticated. We've got really huge telescopes on the ground, but we also have managed to send lots of them into our outer space. Hubble Space Telescope, for example, has revolutionized our not only our understanding of the universe, but more to see that the universe is so large, the universe is very complex, very rich, and that we are part of all that. We have managed to look at ourselves, the Earth, from far. So this is a picture of Saturn, my very, very favorite picture. I've shown you many times, perhaps, taken by Cassini almost 20 years ago. Cassini is no longer in existence because it's already completed this mission. It's already plunged into Saturn some years ago. But while it was there, close to Saturn, it looked back towards us. So here is a tiny, tiny dot, which is not a speck of dust. It is us, it is our Earth. Even just within our solar system, the Earth is already looking very small. So you see here, we, as a human being, we are not only desiring to know what's out there, but we also want to know how are we appearing if we are somewhere else? How do we look if someone else is looking at us from really, really far place? So this is again a picture that very, very reflective. So this is us, Earth, again, this is the ring of Saturn. This is our very faithful companion, the moon. It's making lots of movement about the Earth, the rotation, the revolution, very stable. That allows human being and the life form to develop. The very, what should I say, life-changing understanding of us is this picture, that we see our Earth rising and setting just like we see other celestial objects, the moon, the sun, we see rise and set. But from other places, in particular from the moon here, we see that our Earth does the same, rises and sets. So we know that Earth as a celestial object perform dynamical mechanics, everything that we know about other physical beings, physical objects, our Earth also doing the same thing. And we are all there. This small little spherical object is a house for us and for other living beings. Now, in the previous talk, we heard about energy, we heard about water, we heard about many kinds of materials that we require for us to live. Energy, where do we get our energy from? Mainly from the sun, our star. And this is a very recent photograph of our sun taken by one of our telescopes at the Bosscha Observatory, where the sun has been very active lately. And this is well, you can call it like a little activity from the surface of the sun that we saw. The sun is huge compared to us. Even this little activity is many, many times larger than the Earth. And it's very active. It keeps moving, disappearing, and appearing within hours, within days. You see a very different picture of the sun. So this is our star, the ultimate source of energy, and we are just reflecting its light. Our sun can look very different, very magnificent, beautiful, elegant. During the total solar eclipse, you could see the magnetic lines that allow us to see the corona, which otherwise is not observable during regular situations. The whole disk of the sun is blocked by the moon, such that we see just the perimeter of the sun and the corona. The sun, by the way, is just an average star. There are stars which are smaller than the sun, but there are also stars which are many, many times larger than the sun. So it is intriguing to ask the question, what if the sun is larger? What if the sun is smaller? What will happen to life on Earth, for example? So that kind of curiosity is valid. So stars are not constant. They are formed, they're born, they live till they are mature, and they continue to get older, and at some point they will not be able to continue as being a star and producing lights. Stars are shining because the light is produced as a byproduction of thermonuclear reaction of very cold stars. So once all the materials are used, the stars produce very heavy chemical elements. No more materials that are available or readily available for further thermonuclear. Then the sun, without more material to do thermonuclear reaction, they would just grow dim, different color. You see bright reddish color like the one that we saw in Antares or the Orion. They are old stars, but there are also new stars that we saw here. So stars are nothing that we can consider as permanent. Nothing is permanent in the universe. But of course, they live a very, very long time, millions or billions of years. But the non-permanence of everything physical in the universe is causing also a non-permanent in our solar system, Earth included. Stars are mainly distributed in groups, and they're not really random groups, but they're smaller and bigger groups. Very bigger groups are very systematic in their gravitational distribution. Many of them form galaxies, like our galaxies, the Milky Way. Of course, we are in the Milky Way, so here is Sun with us surrounded, with about 300 billion other stars are constructing this Milky Way, our home galaxy. It's quite large. From here to there is about 120,000 light years, meaning light would need that long, 120,000 years to cross this. So light, which is traveling very fast, and need that length of time. So it's a very large body of gravity. Our Milky Way appear very differently depending on how you look at it, what kind of wavelength or frequency are you focusing on, because each wavelength or each frequency represent different materials. For example, this is what we see. Just the picture I've shown you before. Stars and gas and dust. But if you look at the Milky Way through infrared, for example, infrared light can go past dust without being absorbed. So you see very many stars, which otherwise is blocked by dust if you just use a regular telescope. If you go further into a lower energy, to the hydrogen atom, for example, you need to use a radio telescope, and you see here are not stars. They are gas. They are neutral hydrogen gas, which are the material to produce stars. If you go to the other end of the energy spectrum, you see X-ray or gamma ray, very, very energetic. You see the hot area, which are already ionized because the temperature is extremely high. You get to see extreme physical processes that is not happening as an average process. So this is an indication that if you want to know something comprehensively, you need to look at them in various wavelengths or frequency. Just as you need to go to the hospital to get yourself X-rayed, you want to see your lung, you can see your bones to have a good inspection of your health condition, for example. So we are doing pretty much the same in astronomy. Our galaxy is just one of the, we don't know, maybe trillions of other galaxies. We haven't seen all of them. Of course, we see just those not too far from us. But what we have seen so far, galaxies are just so various. They vary in shape, and color, and size. So no two galaxies are the same. We know that human beings can be twins, you know, like really identical twins, but none of that happened in galaxies. So we understand that galaxies are formed with the combination of their nature, but also what we call nurture. Whatever they go through throughout their evolution is taking part in shaping their future feature, like the shape and color and very many things. What you see here, let me just show you the various colors. The colors of galaxy represent the majority of stars they have in their body. So bluish colors like this, for example, indicate that the galaxies are mainly consisted of young, very bright stars, which are very high in temperature. So you would see lots of spots of high temperature complexes. On the other hand, if you see something yellowish, oranges like this, they are mainly older stars, stars that have evolved, stars that almost used up their raw material in their thermonuclear reaction. So studying galaxies is a very good way of studying stellar evolution. So it's interesting that we need to see their environment, the stellar environment, to see their evolution processes. So let me go back to this picture very quickly. Each galaxy could be as large as our galaxy. You know, they consist of 300 billion stars, young and old. And each galaxy with that size must be separated by distances many times of their body. So otherwise they would collide, right? Because nothing in the universe stays still. Everything is moving. So when you consider that, and you put all galaxies that we have surveyed thus far, you can just conclude that the universe must be so large. We are here, we're not at the center of the universe, but we are at the center of whatever we observe. So from what we have observed thus far, the universe seems really, really, really large. So to appreciate that, again, we need to start from the smaller distance that we experience, you know, the solar system, the distance between us and the sun and other planets within our solar system, and then the distance within stars, between stars within our own galaxy, the Milky Way. And each dot here that you see is a galaxy that people have surveyed. So it is a very large a universe. But people want to know more, not just the universe, we've seen galaxies, but people like to see, or being curious, are there any other life? Are there any life that is also intelligent and able to produce technology and asking questions like we do? Well, people have been thinking about that for a long time. Just last week, we lost Frank Drake, who suggested this accusation many decades ago. And he said that, well, of course, we don't know if there's any other life out there in the universe, but maybe we can do a little bit of calculation just as a guess, a smart guess. So this is the number of civilization other than ourselves that could produce technology. So Drake said it must be depending on the rate of star formation and the possibility that each star has planetary system around them. Each planet has an ecosystem good enough to develop life, and the number of life that actually would develop in that particular ecosystem. And then from all life that could develop on that environment, what percentage would develop into intelligent life. So for example, Earth is a house, is a home for very many kinds of life. You can indicate many, how many of them are considered to be intelligent. You could say, of course, human beings, all the primates, all the mammals, but also some avian birds can be considered as very, very smart. Many of them are, how many of them are smart enough to produce technology, for example? So these are just curious questions. We don't have answers to that now. Of course, the next thing is to ask questions. Okay, if we get to see other objects in the sky, what is it that we need to see if there's a good enough ecosystem for life to develop? So here are the way for us to understand the chemical composition and everything that other objects might harbor. Many years ago, Margaret Kivelson developed a way to detect water in other objects in the solar system. So if there are questions, I'll be happy to answer that, the details. But for now, it's probably suffices to tell you that people have found all sort of water. There are salty water, there are other kinds of water, there are frozen water in other objects in our solar system. Also, we are now able to ask questions, how do stars and their planetary system form? Because we have seen pictures of them, and of course we have studied our Earth history to know that our atmosphere did not start the way it looks right now. You know, in the very, very beginning of Earth, there's very little oxygen, it's very hot, very much in abundant carbon dioxide, but now we have more oxygen, and life did not start with everything already in complex condition. It started with very, very simple system. It needs very little, just light and a little bit of oxygen, but complex like us require many more, many elements, compounds. We need water, and we need liquid water, not just any kind of water. We need oxygen, etc. So studying the universe allows us to see that there, from the very small, like subatomic particles, all the way to clusters of galaxies. And we are just here, pretty much in the middle, between the largest and the smallest of whatever we saw in studying the universe. So what is it that is required to see all those, to arrive at the very nice conclusions, to develop from just wondering questions to all the way to technical questions? Of course, we need to observe, we need to ask questions, to think, calculate, predict, and repeat our observation. We need to design our instruments, build things from very simple to sophisticated, and Some of them stay on the ground, some of them are flown to the outer space. We need to discuss, talk to our colleagues and write papers and do conference so we could exchange our ideas to review and just evaluate and revise our idea. That's how science developed. With that, we have been able to build instruments, send them places like to Mars. The Perseverance was a big deal. We sent last year. And the James Webb Telescope, everybody heard of it. So this is a picture of it. It was launched last Christmas, and it's already sending us pictures, beautiful pictures of Saturn, of Jupiter that we saw a few weeks ago, stars and galaxies very, very far when the universe just started to form stars and galaxies. We found other planets. We saw what the atmosphere of those other planets consists of. And another thing, which is most extreme, we've seen black holes in our galaxies. We know, we are certain of the mass, of the location of our black holes at the center of our Milky Way. So we have seen a lot. But I would like to come back to Earth and let you know that this is the Milky Way seen from Timor Island. Beautiful place, very clear sky. We've also been challenged with all sort of pollution that block our view to the universe. In a big city like Jakarta, for example, you rarely get to see stars. It's a big sorry, because it seems like we lost our connection or direct connection with the stars. Of course, we know better now, but we can't see them. So astronomy, all in all, has revealed and give us description and shown us the beauty of the universe from scientific perspective. But also it has shown that we, living being on Earth, and the whole universe are physically connected, because all the chemical materials that are in our body were one day produced by stars. It does remind us, seeing other parts of the universe, other planets, how harsh they are for life to develop there. We understand that Earth is our home, need to be taken care of, that if we want to live for a very, very long time in the future. So this is, all in all, we have seen that our universe is very old. Human being is here to understand, to take care of the, not just Earth, but perhaps the whole universe, because we are the sentient being that we know thus far. So I'll end with this slide to invite you to join this really cool endeavor, understanding the space, being an astronomer, being a scientist. It's not just for astronomy itself, because through astronomy, we have understood ourselves better and therefore are called to take care of our environment more carefully, taking care of our future. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Premadi, for the presentation. Such a beautiful and insightful talks coming from the legend. So this is the end of the presentation, and now we'll be having the question and answer session. I think it's even better if all of you directly ask the question. So I will give you a chance to all of you and invite you to ask the question directly. I think, wait, there are a lot of questions in the chat box. Let's keep popping out. Probably I will invite Matthew. Are you with us? Please,
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, please open your mic and camera so you can directly ask your questions. Hello? Hello, Matthew.
Yes, can you give me like 20 seconds?
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, please. Over to you.
So my first question is for Mr. Wahyudi, Hasbi. Why was there a space race between the United States and the USSR, and what is the benefit of the space race for humans now?
Or can I just answer that, or?
Yeah, sure. So,
Okay,
Dr.
thank you, Matthew. This is a great question, actually. So why there is a space race and starting with both countries, right? So as also mentioned by Dr. Premana, that human being is always looking to the skies, and they're trying to get as much as possible to get there. And then this is something like a natural behavior of the human itself. And then because we are looking to the sky, we want to go to the sky, right? And then starting from that point, everybody start to develop their own technology, and they want to go there and to try to find something that we still don't know yet. And then, of course, from the regulatory point of view, there is no border in the space. So who can manage to go to the space, they can, let's say, some kind of conquer the space at first. So that's the reason why people want to go there as a racing, something like that, right? And then, but that's the reason why, as I mentioned in my slide, there is some UN treaty that abandoned the use of space not for peaceful purposes. So we have to use our space as a useful purposes, and we have to avoid using that as a military purposes, because our Earth is only one right now, right? And if somebody launch, for example, a nuclear satellite, and they try to bomb our Earth, then this is not only will damaging the people who send this nuclear stuff like that, but it can also destroy the whole planets. So that's the reason why in UN treaty there is a regulation that abandon people to use military for space activities. So yes, that's my answer, Matthew. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Wahyudi. Hasbi, to Matthew, do you still have like follow-up questions, probably? I think you're still in mute. Okay, so I think the microphone is not working. So probably the follow-up question from Matthew is, why are we sending thousands of satellites into space, right?
Okay. Okay, yes, I can read that in the chat. So thank you again for the question. So actually, the reason why people wants to send the thousands of satellite there, like a SpaceX, OneWeb, and other things, because they want to use the satellite as a BTS, the tower for repeating our communication link. And so far we are using only geosynchronous satellite that located 36,000 above the Earth. And then because of this is too far from the Earth, there is some delay about 500 milliseconds from you in the Earth when you are sending your message to the satellite and back again to the satellite to the Earth. Then it will be delayed like 500 milliseconds. And the communication with the delay like that is not ideal if you want to have a real-time communication. For example, you make online gaming between two countries, right? and then you are only connected with one geo satellite, one geo communication satellite with 36,000 kilometers, then your signal will come from the Earth to the satellite and back again. You will have a delay like 500 milliseconds, and something like you are stuck somehow, and then you start again, something like that. So it will not be ideal for every real-time application. For example, also for banking, and then for share market, they need really a real-time communication. And why we need the thousands? Because when we make the satellite not in 36,000, but we are making it down like 1,200 kilometers, then the delay time is only about 30 milliseconds. So it's much faster than when you make a communication with geosynchronous satellite. So that's but the problem is, if you look to my simulation, when you're using the LEO or low orbit satellite with 1,200 kilometers, the beam is very small, right? If you have a 36,000, so you can see like you can look, the Earth is small, but when you make it down a bit, then our beam point to the Earth will be very small. This is another problem. Then how can you solve the communication if you want to make a real-time communication all around the world? Then that's the reason why we need thousands of satellites covering the whole Earth, so that you can make a real-time communication with only 30 millisecond delay time. And then this will be very useful if you for all the real-time communication, including banking, all the share stock market, including your online gaming. So this is fun actually. But I know that this has become a really problem for researcher like Dr. Premana, because this 1,000 satellite could become artificial stars. That's the reason why in my slide I can show you that the first phase of Starlink, you can see it's like a stars, right? Stars running in the space, and this will make it difficult for researchers like Dr. Premana, because they thought that this is a star, but this is not the stars. That's the reason why in UN Corpus right now we try to make a regulation to asking all the to ask all the operators or manufacturers to make a satellite that should not transmit all the light from the sun through their solar panel. So the solar panel should not be too bright, so that it cannot be suspected as a stars for all the astronomers. So this is really a debatable right now in UN. And then because you can imagine 40,000 satellites, including another 1,000 and another 1,000. And then we have to serve both. We have to serve our astronomer, and also we have to serve our people for making a good communication. And one recent regulation is to ask the manufacturer to make a solar panel so that it should not too bright if the satellite get the light from the sun. This is one of the approach, and there is another more approach to come. So that's my answer, Matthew. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hasbi. It's gonna be super laggy if we play game in the satellite. It's a view. Yeah. And also, I was curious, probably about Dr. Premadi view regarding 1,000 satellites. Probably, like you say, probably is going to be disturbed the observation. So, how do you see it, Dr. Premadi, if we have like a lot of 1,000 satellites?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's been a growing concern, like as we just mentioned. But perhaps what I would like to emphasize again, the note at the end of my talk, is that the sky is for everybody. It's not just for astronomers. So we are going to have a sorry case if we don't get a good view of the universe anymore, because any other things or production, whether it be technology or kind of pollution, is blocking our view. The stars, the Earth, if you have seen, is just very small. It's a very, very tiny part of the universe. We need to be able to see our bigger home, the universe. So it's for all of us. Of course, astronomy is the forefront of it, but it is for all human beings, for other species. We understand that other species relying on natural light, also the sun and the moon. So I think if we look at it that way, then people would understand that we need to make a balance. What is it that we need, that we keep on pursuing technology, and more should be out there in outer space, and what else that we could do without? I think that's putting the question a little bit lower in the way that many people could be relevant. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Premadi. So the sky is for us, for all beings. Okay, and then probably we're moving on to the next question. Oh yeah, for all of you, if you want to ask directly to the distinguished speakers, so feel free to raise your hands and open your microphone, and then open your camera. Okay, and then probably for the next question, I will just read it from Anissa Maharani Wulandari. I think this question for Dr. Ardi. Do each of these satellite names have different structure and function? Well, I think this is more suitable for Dr. Wahyudi Hasbi. So what do you think about, do each of these satellite names have different structure and functions? So Dr. Hasbi, if you
Okay, so yes, of course, as I mentioned in my slide as well, so there are a lot of different function and application for every satellite that has been built. So and when we develop a satellite, actually the first things that we have to set is what is the mission. Because the mission for remote sensing, the mission for surveillance, the mission for communication, the mission for navigation or scientific will be totally different from the satellite technology perspective. So for example, if we want to launch navigation satellite, then how many satellites we will need, and then we have to also set the atomic clock on board of the satellite, something like that. And for example, for remote sensing satellite, then we need some payload like camera or active radar, like a synthetic aperture radar on board of our satellite. So this is totally different. So it depends on what kind of application or what kind of mission we would like to have. Then from that point, we will design all the structure and all the technology for that mission. Because the first goal is to get the mission accomplished. That is the thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hasbi. So it's depend on the mission and what kind of the objective you want to achieve. Okay, now we're moving on to the next question. So this one for Mr. Ardi. Was there any satellite hack that had ever occurred? And if so, how would you treat it? Such an interesting question. So probably Dr. Ardi, probably you can.
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that. Very good question. Yeah, the issue of hacking advanced technology like outer space is there. It has been done before. Yeah, and one of the hacker that had successfully performed a hack on satellite was actually an Indonesian. He's now he's also a mutual colleague of mine who's now living in London. Yeah, he has done this before and very successfully. Now, because of his successful he's been engaged as a consultant to various cybersecurity company globally. So the possibility of hacking a satellite or any space vehicle is possible. Yeah, it's possible, and there are cases that has been reported, which has been done very successfully. So the issue is everything can be hacked. That is my answer.
Okay, so everything can be hacked, but it really depends on the how we respond it.
Yes.
So probably I'm curious, what do you think on how should we respond to that kind of thing, like the hacking probably, and then the data breach probably that recently happened in Indonesia. How should we respond to that incident?
Yeah, responding to data breach, yeah, is an issue which I don't think anyone is ready to confront, yeah, publicly. But my suggestion, because we're talking, when you talk about data breach, this is now becoming an issue of reputational management. Yeah, if you're not able to address the issue quickly, transparently, yeah, then it's going to become a problem for the organization or the company that is involved in the data breach. So the quicker you respond with transparency, and of course with the explanation which can be digested by the public very easily, then this is far better compared to not responding, because the risk, yeah, is very big, yeah, because it's not only reputational damage, yeah, but it's also related to something which is more sinister, which is human life, yeah, and also related to business continuity. So it's very important to respond to any issue of data breach very quickly, transparently, and openly.
So firstly, we need to address the problem first,
Yes.
and then quickly respond to it and openly. And it is also important to be transparent to the public. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Sutedja. I think we still have one more question for you from Matthew. It is more technical question. Why do we need to do risk management on cybersecurity or technology? Like, why do we need to do all the necessary precaution to make sure that technology is safe in the cyber world?
Yes, this is something which has been a big concern now, because Indonesia is now suddenly we call it being invaded by many forms of new advanced technologies, yeah, consumer technology. So rather than adopting them quickly and utilize them into our way of life, it's better to study them first to understand the risks. If you don't study them, the characteristic, yeah, the weaknesses and the impact, the negative impact of the technology, then you will only able to learn if the negative impact happen to you, and it's going to be too late. That's why it's very important to learn in advance about the new technologies that we are going to use. Bear in mind that we are not the creator of technology, we are actually the users. That's why it's very important. And more to that is that you need to understand how to mitigate. Yeah, if you suddenly faced with a situation where you're facing with a problem, then you have to be able to mitigate. And the only way to know, to understand how to mitigate is to learn about the technologies rather than using the technology directly. But it's very important to learn about the character, the weaknesses of the technology, also the risk to ourselves on the use of the technology.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ardi Sutedja. So it is important to understand first what is the risk, what is the problem first before you step up into mitigate the problem. So it is important to understand first. So I think we still have one more question for you from Patia. Many Indonesian people, but not all, just consume technology in the market. That's why Indonesia has a lack of development in technology, because we just consume those products. As you said, the technology is developing rapidly, so Indonesia can't or don't have time to develop the technology. My question is, what can Indonesia do to increase or to catch up our knowledge in technology?
Very good question. Yeah, we cannot beat new technology coming into our market. Yeah, the only way we have to keep the balance by understanding the technology itself. Like I had mentioned previously, the risk, the advantage, and of course, at the end of the day, we will have the final say which technology is appropriate for us. Yeah, but accepting all technology, I don't think is also wise. We have to select technology which is appropriate, to our way of life, our culture, and also to our safety. Yeah, unless we understand all these factors, and we're going to face problems. This is why it's very important. On the other hand, it's also very important for us to also develop our own indigenous technology, like what when we develop satellite. Yeah, that's one of the area of where we develop our own indigenous technology, and we should do more in that area. Not only in satellite, maybe other things like maybe in cybersecurity technologies. We should also develop our own technology. Why is this very important? Because if we have our own technology, of course we can manage. We know the weaknesses, we know the strength of our technology, and so on. And this is why it's very important to develop our own technology.
Okay, so it's really important to develop our technology. So, but what do you think it's the support that Indonesia needs to develop our own technology? Because it's quite a tricky problem, because sometimes we need it fast, so that's why we need to adopt the technology. But on the other hand, we also need to develop our own technology. So how do you see it? Like, what kind of support that we need to develop our own technology?
This is $1 billion question. What are the support required to develop our own technology? We don't talk further about developing technology unless we have, first of all, the resources. The resources meaning the human talent. And secondly, we need also the proper budget. Without the budget and without the talent, forget anything else. You will not excel nor propel yourself into the next age of technology. So this is very important. Yeah, budget, human talent is required to develop our own technology.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's budget and human talent, human capitals for develop our technology. So I think that's the last question for Dr. Ardi Sutedja. Thank you very much for the answer. Again, for all of you, if you want to ask directly, please feel free just to raise your hands and then open your microphone and camera and ask directly to the speakers. Okay, so next move on to Anissa Maharani Wulandari. It's from Matthew. Matthew, how can we get the rocket to space with net zero carbon? Like, is it possible to send stuff to space by not emitting any aerosol and carbon to the atmosphere? Question is addressed to Dr. Filda Yusgiantoro.
Yes, thank you for an interesting question, Matthew. I would like to unmute myself. My voice here is clear?
Yes.
Okay. So Matthew and all of the young citizens here, we need to understand the definition of net zero emissions. Actually, is not zero emissions, it's net. If we say about net, it means that the amount of the carbon emissions released into the atmosphere should not exceed the amount of emissions that can be absorbed by the Earth. So it's net zero emissions. So if we say about that, meaning that the carbon emissions a release is, for example, like from transportation, and then also from trees and so on, the natural emitting from the natural resources that is emitting the CO2. And then in absorption is like from technology that is used by, for example, in the oil business, with the CCUS, the carbon capture, and so on. So if we minus it, and still get a positive from the net zero emissions, meaning that we still have a concerns on that. But if it's a negative net zero emissions, meaning that the absorption is exceeded compared to the amount of the carbon emissions released. So that is one of the basic definitions of net zero emissions. So if you ask about how can we get a rocket to space with net zero carbon, it is right now, it is quite difficult to answer that. But during the development, for example, like the rocket that is launched by Elon Musk, he is eager to have a net zero emissions by having an electricity rocket, which right now is maybe is impossible for that, but maybe possible in the future. So doing that, there should be lots of research going on. For example, like last year, in 2016, there's a rocket that has a webcam to analyze how many tons of CO2 released. And astonishingly, that the release of CO2 by the rocket's launch is quite high. It's around 116 tons of CO2 that is emitted in 165 seconds. So regarding to that, people are more concerned right now how to make a more more environmental friendly rocket. And I believe that in the near future this will going to be achievable, and we will get a more net zero emissions of rockets. I hope that can answer the question from Matthew.
Thank you, Dr. Filda Yusgiantoro, for the answer. I think the next question for Ms. Filda, but I think this is not suitable. I think this is more suitable for Dr. Hasbi or Dr. Premadi. It is about NASA. Is NASA planning on having a life moving on to the moon? Are there adequate protective elements on the moon that protect parts of the Earth from other dangerous extraterrestrial objects? I think,
Thank you very much.
This question is more for Premadi.
Thank you very much for this very curious question. First, we need to understand that life that is developing or has been developing on Earth in the last hundreds of millions of years has adapted to Earth condition. And so if we need or are interested in colonizing other places other than Earth, then we need to be ready to adjust our physical system to that new environment. That could be something like, creating a bubble-like thing that inside the bubble we replicate the Earth condition, or we start with something extremely small, sending very simple life there, and then let that kind of life develop by adjusting to that new environment. So life is a very complex system. Human being is an extremely complex system. Very simple life like the one cell, life like the amoeba, for example, they could live in a very harsh environment. We have seen bacteria that could live in very acid environment, very hot, but human cannot adapt to that. You know, we've got this heat wave very lately. People have been suffering. We've been having too much water and too little water. People are suffering. So for me, myself, it is much easier to take care of the earth and making sure that our natural resources are sustainable for the future life. If we want to go places, then it's for exploring. It's extremely difficult to go other places. And I've seen other question that has asked, could we go to extrasolar planets or to live elsewhere? Well, the closest star, the Proxima Centauri, Alpha Centauri, you know, the Southern Cross, we call it, it takes light for years from here to there or from there to here. It's an extremely distant place. And I had calculated a long time ago, it would require in our rocket, current rocket technology, Hasbi could correct me, it will take 80 generations of human. So if you start as a baby and you have to have lots of people so you can start your rocket and go. And then along the trip, you have to multiply and regenerate and all that. And then after about 80, 60 generations, you arrive there. So what's going to happen during the trip? You're going to cramp inside the rocket? So it's, of course, it's not impossible, but it's not feasible for the next hundreds of years. So within that time, even within the next 10 years, we need to take care of the earth very urgently. So it's good to have an open mind to explore, but we need to perhaps put more effort in taking care of our earth and seeing other places from our telescopes, big and small in here or our outer space, allow us to understand how precious our earth is, and it's a lot better and easier to take care of it rather than go places. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Premadi, thank you very much for the answer. So it is important, firstly, to take care our Earth first before thinking about moving to other planets. Because what's matter is, it's not about the matter of the impossibility. I mean, like, it is not impossible, but it is not feasible. But it is also like we still have our Earth that we need to protect as well. So we need to take our efforts for our environment. I think Dr. Hasbi has raised hand, but I think also firstly, I think I need to address a question probably for Bu Filda because it's related about the moon. So in your presentation, Ibu Filda, you mentioned about solar power in space. Do you think it's also like I think UK or EU has like as a plane to have a solar power but in space. Regarding this question, if we're planning having life on the moon, do you think it's possible to have energy on the solar power?
Yes, thank you, Vivi. Actually, I have a discussion also with Wahyudi in the chat. And the thing is that the solar panel in space is, we need to make them more efficiently. And Wahyudi has also mentioned that they are discussing with another country to make how to make use of the satellites to be more efficiently in terms of using the solar power from the sun to the earth. And I think from that, from me, I totally support on that. And I think we have a continuous discussion with what you do right now. So actually, because, you know, as mentioned, Ibu Premana as well, that, you know, we have the sun and we need to maximize the solar to our earth and taking care of the earth, that having a solar panel in the space is very useful for us. Actually, the solar panel right now in the earth, that has been actually from the idea came from the space as well, the solar panel from the space, that now we have lots of solar panels used in the earth. So regarding to your questions, Fifi, that you know, the solar panel use, I think this is the future as well for the energies used in Earth. This is more environmental friendly as well. But again, there's also concerns on after we use a lot of solar panel in the Earth, then is it still long lasting? Because there will be waste from the solar panel after maybe the lifetime of 20 years or 30 years. What can we do from the waste of the solar panel itself? Can we recycle it? Can we recycle after we cannot use the solar panel anymore? So that is one of the questions that we need to be concerned as well. So I hope that answers the question, Fee.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Filda, for the answer. Yeah, I think it's really important to raise the question about what next after, yeah, we have the solar panel, and then what should we do with the waste? And what should we do to address all the questions, probably not only a solar power for other sector as well. So, and then I think Dr. Hasbi that had a discussion with the book that want to address some point, probably.
Yes, thank you so much. So just to add some more for space activities right now. So especially for energy point of view, so also green technology. So currently in space technology, we are also looking for all the clean energy and also green technology. For example, our next satellite that to be launched next year, we are using a green propulsion system. So this is a very this is a green technology that will not create a hazard to our environment. So as you know, typically we are using hydrogen or any gases that will destroy the environment. But for the next decade, people now in space technology trying to make the clean energy as well. So we are using the green propulsion technology that very easy and there is no hazard. And then also there is another way is to make a thruster by using water. So using the electrical propulsion, so they heat up the water and the water will come out as a gas, and this is enough to create energy to move the satellite. Of course, it is a small kinetic energy, but it is enough. And then another thing is currently we are also looking for the as also mentioned by Ibu Filda, that there is some kind of research right now that we are discussing that to harvest the solar energy by using the satellite and transfer it directly to the Earth. And the question is why we have to do that. The thing is, as also mentioned by Bu Filda, the efficiency when we are receiving the energy from the solar panel from the Earth, we lost some of the efficiency. So that's the reason why there is another idea. Why don't we put the solar panel in space and harvesting the energy and send it back to the Earth with very low, very high efficiency. And then one more thing is about we have seen this as well. Like how can we manage to live in Mars or in the Moon And of course, the first question is what is about the energy? That's the reason why if you look at the current trends, so in the space technology, they are trying to make how to harvest the energy from our sun and put it in the moon and also to the Mars. And then also another question is how can we move from Earth to the Mars, for example, by using clean energy? And one of the answer is how can we utilize the solar energy from our sun? And that's the reason why currently more and more research technology for space is coming to the plasma thruster. So the plasma thruster to power the rockets in space is only using the electric energy from our sun. And then from that point, it will make heat and make a plasma so that it can power the rockets to move. So of course, the efficiency is still low, but you can see now that some geo satellite, geocommunication satellite also start to using it, so that they will also very good because the satellite also did not need to bring a lot of fuel. So they just use a huge solar panel and harvest the energy and power the plasma thruster, and this plasma thruster will kick the satellite goes up to the 36,000 kilometers. In the previous technology, we have to bring fuel and we have to calculate how many years it will be empty. But now it's more by using the electrical propulsion or also some plasma thruster. This is something I just need to add. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But about the harvesting the energy, is the existing technology can provide that kind of technology to harvest the energy from the sun right now, or is it we need to like develop the technology to harvest energy?
Oh, good point. Actually, so far we are only using the solar panel, of course. And I can imagine because when I developed my first satellite in 2004, we are using a solar panel with 14% efficiency. So this is a silicium type material. And in 2016, we are using gallium arsenide solar panel, so we can increase the efficiency up to 32%. So it's quite good. And then, of course, there is a lot of research right now. How can we make a very high efficiency solar panel? So, and of course, this is a material technology and research there. So currently, yes, we are only collecting that. And then another way that people try to think is to put a big mirror in the space, you know. So they want to put a big mirror in the space, and then the sun will shining to the solar. And then, you know, the Chinese want to start now to make their own moon by using this big mirror in space. So and collecting the energy at the same time, and just transfer that to the Earth. So this is the current trend that we can see has been developed. But of course, yes, getting the high efficiency profile to harvest the sun energy is one of the main topic right now.
Thank you so much, Bapak Wahyudi Hasbi. Such a valuable information we get. This is really diverse discussion, so it is really very cool today. Okay, then we're gonna move on to the next question. I think it's for Dr. Premadi. It's from Matthew again. I think Matthew has asked a lot of questions today. What is the distance from the corona of the sun to the Earth? And is the myth that light from the sun takes 8 minutes to Earth true? Okay, so
Thank you.
Probably over to you.
Thank you very much. Hi, Matthew. Thank you for the question. Well, the sun is on average about 150 million kilometers from Earth. The Earth orbit is not exactly a circle, so we've got a little closer, a little farther, rather routinely throughout the year. So if we divide that 150 million kilometer by 300 kilometer per second, which is the speed of light, you will arrive at about 8 minutes. So it's not a myth, it's a calculation based. Perhaps in relation to the previous questions, I would just add, I mentioned in my talk that the sun is being very active lately. Occasionally, it was just spew out very high energy, even material, outward. Now, the location of the activity, it could be anywhere on the sun's surface. If it going out towards the opposite direction from the Earth, then we are safe. But occasionally in the past, in the far past, we have seen records that the sun had thrown its material towards our side of the Earth. So even not too far in distant past, in the late 1980s, there was a huge solar storm that reached the Earth and managed to disrupt all sort of electromagnetism system. And northern Canada, northern country, for example, like Canada, was disrupted for many, many days without electricity. So, of course, by the 1980s, internet was not a global thing, but today everything's depending on the internet, depending on electricity, how we communicate, how we manage our economy, etc. So it's a very dire situation if you don't prepare. So mitigation is an important thing. So it's been developing new knowledge now called the space weather. So people have been monitoring the sun's activity, it's going which way, and then prepare any kind of mitigation system that would protect the Earth, because the Earth, our society has been depending more and more on network of power grid and also internet grid. So one place is disrupted, locally, it will be no time before the whole Earth is disrupted. I'm sorry to say, but another example of this is the war between Ukraine and Russia. The impact is global. Only two countries are warring, but the impact, we are feeling it. So I think it is very important to create alternative, to create preparedness, and also what we talk about, pushing technology forward is good, but it also we need to remember to ask questions. What is it that we actually need? Do we need all that? So I think preservation and balance are something that we need to consider when we think about furthering our technology. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Premadi. So that question you raised about, we need to think about what we really need. Actually, it's related to next question. I think it's more philosophical question from Matthew. Why we need to explore space? Even we still have so many things to explore on Earth, like deep ocean, or as an example.
That's a really great question. Thank you. That's true. It seems like we know our galaxy better than our deep ocean. The reason is accessibility. the stars, the galaxies are our sort of backyard view, right? We just create lots and lots of good, sophisticated technology, and we are able to see them. But obviously, we cannot do the same with inspecting the deepest part of our ocean. Not only we need technology, but it's a lot harsher. It's only about a decade ago that people been sent down with a it's just a small vehicle, submarine, but very strong, because if you go deeper, the pressure increases significantly. So that's the real problem. The pressure is just horrendous. You need to have a strong material to prevent your vehicle to disrupt. And then the camera and etc. So it's just you're right. It's ironic that it is easier to access the sky rather than our deepest. We haven't seen the core of our Earth, but how are we going to do that? We cannot just dig holes to the center of the Earth. Of course, we've read the novel Journey to the Center of the Earth, but it's a novel. Of course, it's a science, but one of the earliest science fiction. But we haven't been able to do that because it's very difficult. It's very dangerous. I think the danger part is something which is needing underline here. Remember that even going to the moon, human being had not returned to the moon for a long time. Why? Because it's dangerous. Anywhere outside the surface of the Earth is dangerous, meaning we are not equipped physically with that. So going down to the Earth, either to the ocean or to the dry part of the Earth, is extremely dangerous. So going out to the outer space is extremely dangerous, but easier for us to send stuff. So the bottom line is, whatever we try to do, we really appreciate human life. We don't want to sacrifice any human life, even just in the name of science, in the name of knowledge. So it's a human life is something that we value more than anything. We keep that. We need people to stay safe, so we don't do things that would jeopardize anybody's life in order or in the name of science or technology. So I guess that's the reason why we haven't explored our Earth deep enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Premadi. So it's more like ethical reason, because it is hard to explore or go deep down the oceans, as it is more dangerous than it is easier to go to outer space. But of course, it is dangerous as well. So it's more like ethical reasons and the technology as well, right? Okay, so we still have question. I think it is more like astronomical question from Clarissa. Clarissa asked question about what happens to the stars after they die. Do they just turn into particles? What happened next after the star die? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a lovely question. How a star would end its life depends on its mass, how much material it's got to start with. So we have known that stars which have bigger mass, heavier stars, they process a lot more quickly compared to stars which have a less mass. So a bigger mass would get old very quickly. Why? Because they've got lots and lots of material, raw material for their thermonuclear to be processed from hydrogen to helium, helium to carbon, carbon to oxygen, all the way to iron or And then what happened next? What happens is the raw material is not accessible at the core of the stars. So the stars will not be able to maintain its pressure. When the thermonuclear is very active, as a byproduct, they create photons. And photons, if you've got many of them, statistically, they create pressure outward. This pressure outward balance the gravitational collapse. So if the thermonuclear reaction is not active anymore, if not efficient, we don't see more production of photons. So gravitational collapse is taking more role in the next step of the star's evolution. So in short, the stars would sort of shrink very quickly. Now, if the star is not that big, like the sun is average, as I mentioned before. What happened at the very end of the star of our sun, it would just spew out the inner part of the sun, and then it would just remain the very core of the star, and we call it a white dwarf star. It's about the size of the moon, but it's extremely heavy. And very faint. But if the star is very massive, like the Sirius star, for example, you see very bright bluish star if you've got clear night, one day it's going to explode as a supernova. Now it's very spectacular. When a supernova explodes, what happens is all the materials that it had created through its life will be thrown out through the outer space. It will enrich the interstellar media with many rich elements. So therefore, all the chemical elements that build living beings is created from protein. You know what it's composing a protein: carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen. Those are all created by stars. The universe does not automatically create anything heavier than helium. So everything like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, iron, etc., are all created in stars. So that's why I mentioned in my talk that we are physically connected to the stars. So if the stars are very massive, then it exploded as a supernova. If it's extremely massive, the remaining would be a black hole. But if it's not too large, just maybe a couple of dozens times than the sun, then it would turn into something which is also very compact, called a neutron star. It's going to spin very quickly, and every now and then you see the jet, and it's called a pulsar, pulsating star. So that's a very long answer to that short question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So it's the case of Sirius. How about our star? When will our sun estimately be explode?
Well, it'd probably be about 5 to 7 billion years from now. So we've got plenty of time.
So we got plenty of time, right?
We got so it's 7 billion years from now. It's going to grow bigger, turn into a very red giant star. When it grows bigger, it perhaps would swallow us. It will swallow Venus for sure. It's probably be big enough to swallow Earth. So maybe that by that time technology would be so developed that we could migrate elsewhere. But for now, I think we are fine to stay on Earth.
As for now, we're fine just to stay on Earth and take care of our environment.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you, Dr. Premadi. So for now, probably I will invite all the speakers to probably deliver a closing statement. So I would like to invite again Dr. Wahyudi Hasbi, probably to deliver some closing statement.
All right. So thank you so much, Mr. Fifi, for this session. So as a last closing statement, I would like to encourage all the youngsters here And as a human being, we are always looking to the space. Of course, we are like to explore our space. But of course, without technology, without thinking about our Earth, we cannot do too much. And then I would like to encourage all of you to have and create activities and start with your own ambitions and of course your knowledge, and collect your knowledge as much as you can. And then let's try to explore our space, our Earth, with the but at the same time we have to manage our Earth so that we can live a bit longer here before we find another places in the space. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hasbi. Now I would like to invite again Dr. Ardi Sutedja. Are you here with us? Yeah, Bapak, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is a closing statement. Yeah, I think I like to just repeat what I have said earlier. Yeah, in understanding technology is not only how to use technology, but it is also an art and science to study them properly in order for us to manage the technology. While doing so, we have also to understand the risks, the impact, and also the benefit for us. So again, it is very important to study all aspects and all spheres of technology in order for us to use the technology in a safe manner, and also so that we can really enjoy the utilization of technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ardi Sutedja. Now I will like to invite again Dr. Filda Yusgiantoro.
Yes, thank you.
Over to you. Yeah.
Regarding to the energy sector, and also relating to the space and also environment, just please take care of the Earth, and also it will relate to the space as well. Especially for the infinite, like extending beyond, please just do, for example, like technology and also exploring new things and so on. Please keep in mind to guard the environment, and also and all the people as well. So
thank you, Ibu Filda. Okay, lastly, I would like to invite again Dr. Premadi.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I would perhaps like to remind you that the Earth is so large, so beautiful. Our solar system is not fully explored. Our galaxy is even more. And the whole universe is too large, it's too beautiful for just astronomers to study them. So I would invite all of you to enjoy the universe as your larger home. And in the meantime, have that as an opportunity to reflect how precious our little home Earth is. So with that, I am sure that each of us can do something about it. Big and small is valuable. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Premadi. So I would like to thank again to our wonderful four distinguished speaker in today's plenary session, because it is such a meaty discussion today, and I hope all of you, all young science enthusiasts, can be inspired or probably learn something new. Because today's discussion is really. As for me, I think possibility is never be zero, and impossible possibility is attitude, and that attitude will lead you to a pessimist or optimistic. So do whatever you want to do and do what you can, dream high, and then let's probably do something for our environment. Thank you very much. I am Fitriyanti. Probably I would like to give the floor to the committee to say about the next schedule, probably. Thank you so much. Goodbye, have a nice day, and see you in the next session.
Thank you, Vivi.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mbak
And
Vivi. Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
I just
Thank you,
like
everyone.
thank you very much for all distinguished speakers. Well, it is very, very inspiring. Yeah, that's very fascinating. I just like to remind the participants to come back at 2 o'clock, yeah, 2 p.m. Jakarta time. So GMT +7, so you can count out the what time is your own time. All right. Thank you very much for everybody. See you again at 2 o'clock p.m. Bye bye.
Terima kasih banyak Bapak Ibu.
Bye. Thank you. And for everybody. Bye, Safa.
Bye-bye.